can't believe this is happening. I thought we were going to start at 7, but now it's going to wind up being 7:01 by the time we get rolling here, and people are going to be so upset with me. You just walked into the lion's den.
We going?
Yeah, it's going. I've been talking to people privately for hours now, just sitting here waiting for you to show up.
Is the audio going to be working this time?
I don't know. Probably.
All right. Let me get up on the questions, Mark.
So how's everybody doing here? We're back, and we're talking about some stuff today. First off, how's everybody doing? Oh, my DoorDash order's been picked up.
Oh, I can't wait.
Can't wait to what this room is going to smell like by the time I'm having my Wagyu beef hamburger from Arby's. my triple. Jack's going to be wanting to... Oh, by the way, I turned up the air conditioning in here because I was lifting weights before you came.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm like, my body is just...
Your body's ready?
Yeah, full tilt.
Golden Boy 94 asked, am I getting or are we getting the GR Corolla? Well, the goal is to get one if anyone's asking, but the likelihood of getting one is probably pretty low. Much like the 86, I asked the region locally, and they laughed basically. So,
are you actually talking about buying one or
buying one? We'll be at the launch program. That's confirmed. The likelihood of us doing some big video piece on it is probably pretty unlikely. It'll be a regular launch video, and you'll probably get a series video after that.
They're going to be very rare, and as we're finding out from Toyota, they're the Nezumi edition or the Akio Toyota edition is going to be impossible to get, so it's probably going to be like $200,000.
And they flat out told me that there is no way in hell, unless I play crazy ADM, if I can get even a circuit edition. If I get one, the best case scenario is one with LSDs.
So the point is, be excited for these new performance cars.
Because you ain't getting one.
So yeah, that's the story right there.
Literally, I think one of the things we were talking about, and we've told a lot of OEMs, in some ways it's hard to get excited about some of these cars now because it's literally borderline impossible for journalists who literally have access to the OEMs to get them, but even more impossible, regular people who aren't somehow connected to the OEM.
Yeah,
world.
it's a sad state of affairs, which I'm sure we'll talk about for the next 6 hours here, Jack.
So before we get into a lot of these questions, Mark, let's talk. You want to talk about current projects, kind of what we have going on, what people
I want to talk about some fun stuff.
Oh, you want to talk about fun stuff?
I got a couple topics here we can cover, Jack.
Because I just worked out, Mark. I'm eating my granola bar.
Oh, that's weak. Wait till you see what's coming. No, it's not Arby's. I was told that to get some of these corporate deals where I can shill for people, I can make as much as $30,000 to $70,000 to put 1 minute worth of plug in a video. And I'd like to find one company that would actually pay me that much, because if they did, you would get the plug of your life. All right, so I wanted to talk about STDs. The person that got the STD. Did you see that story, Jack?
Yes, I saw it on our little group chat.
Yeah, so let me read it to you if you haven't seen it. I posted it on Instagram, and I had to double check to make sure that this was real. And sure enough, it's real. I gotta fix my mic, so I'm not banging it around. I'm sorry, peoples. So the story is, Geico may have to pay $5.2 million to a woman who got an STD in an insured vehicle. So apparently, I'll pull this up here. You can kind of see. Actually, no, I shouldn't put actually, there's nobody's private information on here. Can you see that? All you can see is it's a Hyundai Genesis. So apparently this dude had a 2014 G80 or before that, and he was having coitus with his girlfriend. Relations. And apparently he did not disclose the fact that he had HPV, and she got it. So unfortunately, she was the recipient of some very bad news. But her lawyer got involved, apparently, and decided to sue Geico, of which apparently Geico botched something, and they had an arbitrator that said she was going to get $5.2 million. And now Genesis has another great PR story to tell, along with Tiger Woods. So that's just a new lesson. Don't invite anybody in your car. don't give them an STD, and don't do anything.
Or get an STD. You get $5 million. I'm using all the brain wrinkles, Mark.
Yeah, that's true. All right, that's the first story. This microphone's really driving me crazy already. I'm gonna put it a little bit lower, and it's gonna look stupid, just
All right.
like my face.
Let's get back to.
Yeah, we'll do a couple questions, and we'll go back to hot topics.
Are we doing questions, or are we going to do future projects first? Because I feel like they should know what future projects we're going to do.
Well, people are get flowing in here. What's the numbers looking like? Because I need to get back to my auditor. So we got 532 viewers. That's not what your projections were.
No, my projections, Mark, were at least 30.
No, 30. Okay,
Yeah.
well, we blew past those. Now we can fluff our numbers and say how big we are.
All right. So there was a question I read earlier. Should someone buy either a Veloster, an Elantra NDCT, or a used Japanese masterpiece? That was asked by Ryan Augustine.
Japanese masterpiece, as in what? Like
a CTR.
Suzuki Swift?
Yeah, Suzuki Swift.
A
Murano
GTR?
Cross Cab.
Yeah. But was that a Japanese car?
Yeah, it was.
The Murano?
Yeah, it's Nissan.
I thought it was made in Tennessee.
My bad, excuse me. Or like a GTR Nismo. No, honestly, Elantra N, say 34,000, or CTR. At this point, we did the video in the car. We have a comparison test coming out in the next couple of weeks, so I'm going to bake that into this as well.
Well, the easy answer right now, since you can't buy a CTR.
Let's say you buy one used. You said used Japanese masterpiece.
Right.
Say they're both 34,000.
Yeah, the Elantra is just buy that, and then have your fun for a year until you blow up the gearbox or something and sell it. I think that's the best performance car. And I have some problems with it, but if you're going to just drive it like an idiot or track it or whatever you're going to do, that is the most fun you can have right now for $34,000. It puts it puts a huge smile on your face. It's super fast, but it's not something that I don't think I would keep it long term. I think you'd get over it and you'd probably go back to the CTR because the CTR is better in certain ways.
It's a more sophisticated car.
Yeah, it is. But anyway, that's a short answer.
Do you want to get back to our project?
Yeah, let's get back to the next topic, Jack.
All right.
So you may be too young, but I've introduced Jack to the kids in the hall, and I sent them over a nice oldie clip because they're on Amazon. And to be fair, some of their new stuff is very hit or miss, and some of their old stuff is hit or miss too. Like comedy, it ages poorly sometimes. But anyway, there's this skit that you're going to want to look up, and I will do you a big favor here. I'm going to link it in the description because
I hope you guys like some chocolate choo-choos.
Yeah, this is something that I'm turning into, and I would have loved to do in my corporate job.
It's called Girl Drink Drunk. So Mark is not a gentleman who particularly enjoys libations unless they are of a sweet or fruity nature versus me, where I'm definitely more of a old-fashioned whiskey man.
Yeah, so that's the skit right there. I just linked it. If you really want to have a good time, that sums up. I brought it up because two things. It's amazing. And then two, once they came back on the air, I realized how much of my own sense of humor was influenced by them because I was watching it as a kid. I'd go over to my friend's house after school and we'd wait. I think it was on late at night at HBO. And this is what we would watch. And it was, I can see the weirdness in them and how it shaped my humor, but
making fun of business people.
Yeah, there's a lot of business skits that some are horrible. Like that one is good, and there's a lot of good businessman ones.
Yeah, not letting the monkeys out.
Yeah, not letting the monkeys out. And then the other one was the dude decided he wasn't going to wear deodorant to work. Did I show you that one?
No.
So he didn't wear deodorant to work, and he came into work, and his whole shirt was covered down.
That's like me after a shoot.
Like after 5 minutes, and he goes into the office, and his boss calls him. He's like, "Man, we got real problems with your performance." And then he gets a whiff of him. He's like, "Oh my God." That's the best smell I've ever smelled. And then he was like a hero in the office, and people were throwing parties and they were having sex in the office because whatever scent he gave off was amazing. So the owner of the company decided he was going to bottle this dude's armpit sweat and sell it. And the company became like the biggest company in the world. So I don't know why I just rambled about that. But anyway, there's a side topic. What else we got, Jack?
GR86 questions, Mark. Where is that video? Well, we've been rained out 3 different times to shoot the track segment. I finally have a track open to me this weekend. So I'm going to be shooting the stock car with Counter Space Garage pads. on stock tires versus basically the easiest thing you can do to make this thing go fast is just a set of wheels and tires. Show basically what that is, and I'll be the first video basically summarizing our first 6-ish thousand miles of the car, and then from there we're going to throw in all the parts and show you what that's like and compare it to Mark's S2000 with Mark driving, me driving, and Britt Casey, who's a IMSA driver who works at Autobahn, to show you the full performance spectrum, what you could probably do yourself, what a pro driver can do, and show some of the differences as well. Because if a pro driver is really, really fast in one car and you and I can't if you and I can't get any extra performance out of it, for most of our viewers and for most people, it's going to be irrelevant.
Yeah, and I think so. And Jack, like he wanted to do this, and I'm like, I just cringed when he told me about it. And I know people are gonna enjoy it, so I'm making it way more difficult on him because we did stock lap times, and then we all drove, and then I'm like, I don't want to go to full modifications, so I made him do camber bolts to show what camber difference would do to lap times, and then wheels and tires to show the difference between these like subtle steps, so you can kind of see how much of a difference those little things do instead of having to spend like $5,000 or even more to do like full suspension that you're probably not going to really get a lot out of. So I wanted to show those little tiny bits first as well. So you're going to get that before it goes to like brakes and all the typical bullshit everybody does.
And before I get into the paid questions, I'm going to try to get through another one that someone was asking earlier. CX50, which we will be doing a full video on. It's just been, with all our projects, which I will talk about here as well, it's been a little hard to get to some of these, like, I don't want to call them more normal press cars, but CX50 or Tucson, what would you buy?
CX50.
Why?
Because it doesn't look like it came out of the Triangle factory.
Yeah, the Tucson's pretty hard to look at, dude.
That's one car I can't stomach. If you watch their PR video for that thing when it launched, I'm glad I wasn't at the launch and I didn't get invited either. Go figure. But I mean, if I was there and I had to see what they did and how much they talked about the triangles and the geometry, they probably would have kicked me out. I think the CX50, as much as I feel like some of it was just like phoned in for sales, it's the perfect like box on
like
wheels.
The Meridian edition too.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like a cookie cutter SUV with Mazda DNA or whatever, but the price is right. So, and I think it's a more traditional looking SUV. I like that it's kind of boxy, but it's certainly not like groundbreaking in any way. But it looks way more normal than the Tucson.
Two other things I want to talk about before we get into the project and all these other questions. This came up earlier in the live stream. Why do you think Acura only is selling the manual Integra at the highest price point? I'll ask you that question first.
I have no idea. I have no idea, honestly. I think they're just trying to get the most money, the most margin out of it by people they know that are going to buy that car only a manual. I think it's a cash grab move, honestly. I think after the first model year or second model year, when they do like the model year changes, which every company has to do to keep selling cars, they'll probably offer it in a lower trim and call it like something, they'll give it an edition or some crap, or you can get the stripped out one, before the Type S. But you got to think about it, right? They're making this car, they're going to drag it out for 5 years, so they got to do something every year. That's my take.
Yeah, I think they internally, while as cynical as it may be, I think they're betting that if you are willing to spend 10 grand over or whatever we decided it was, over a Civic Si, or 4 or 5 grand over a fully loaded base Civic with a manual, you're probably going to be willing to fork out the money to get the manual Integra versus the base model.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. Speaking of that, let's just talk about the Integra real quick and get this out of the way. Oh, by the way, let's see this picture.
Oh, they re-undercoated.
They redid it today, which I'll talk about in a minute. But so the Integra, we were at the launch, and we talked to John Akita and Jonathan Rivers, in great length.
And those guys are amazing to talk to.
Yeah, they're super dedicated to the brand, which I think this is. And I had this discussion with Toyota too about this recently. So there's a huge disconnect between the viewer base, the people that are on the outside, seeing cars as products, which I understand because I still feel this way, right? So if you're inside a big corporation with, multi-million dollar decisions, there's always going to be a layer of corporatism and like the bean counter stuff, the product planning, the marketing, all that stuff is hyper important. There's a lot of jobs on the line for some of these cars. So when you or I or most of the enthusiasts look at the Integra, and this is a conversation, again, we talk to them for hours.
Yes.
And I know they wanted
to... we spoke to John Ikeda, the VP of Honda Acura, for probably 4 hours. And Jonathan Rivers, who's the head of product planning for cars like the American NSX, and this car for what, 4-5 hours probably over the course of 2 days. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to cut.
No, I mean, these guys are lifers in that brand, right? And they understand like the original Integra. They understand all the old products, but you're in a where are you at in a brand today? You don't have that job because you're living 20 years back. You're in that job. What's next? What's next? What's next?
And bottom line.
And bottom line, correct. So their job is to sell cars. Their job is to try their best to make enthusiast-ish cars that will sell, that they can continue to move forward and make the brand look good. And it's not that they don't appreciate the old Integra, the old NSX, or the old Civics, the old S2000s. They know exactly what those cars are. And even having a discussion about the S2000, they're like, we have not wanted to touch that because we know what would happen if we touched that car. It would have to be 100% Japanese product or project spun off by them. And my take is with Honda specifically, their Japanese division is not in the place to be tampering with a hardcore enthusiast car. That is not where they're at right now, aside from like the Civic Type R. That's different. But that concept of strip back, hardcore, lightweight, no nonsense, that's not a place in history where they're at. So the Integra is a representation of modern Honda. It's their modern spin on the Integra. But if you go back to 1996, that era, when you look at Car and Driver, Road and Track, every single time it's on that 10 best list, what do they talk about the Integra? It's smooth, it's quiet, it's comfortable, it gets good fuel efficiency, and it had all independent rears or independent suspension. It's the best economy car for that price range that feels like a usable everyday machine. And of course, they always talk about the GSR and the Type R being the one they want because it's edgy, but that was a small, minute amount of their sales. And the car was popular, much like the Civics were, because they were super, super refined. And if you go back again to that 6th gen Civic after the 5th, which was 96 to like 2000, that car was talked about as the next generation smooth riding, upscale feeling car. And so like you see the evolution of what made that car good. And now it's just to the point where everything is so cookie cutter.
I think so. To be fair, or not to be fair, putting this in perspective, we've been doing this full time for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And the most hate I've seen in any comments is the Integra. And I think there's a disconnect from what people on the internet and enthusiasts think. And most of these people haven't even driven an Integra Type R. Think of that car and what it was and what it wasn't. I think the way those comments are, they make the car, the regular Integra, we're not talking about a Type R, we're not talking about a Type S, we're just talking about a regular Integra. They make it sound like it was 1,000 horsepower, it was $10,000 and got 80 miles a gallon. And in reality, the regular Integra wasn't that at all. There was one at the launch. It was a 4-door. Admittedly, it did have enough technical differences from a Civic to necessarily warrant that price difference, but it wasn't anything hyper special.
Right. No, if you drive a 90s Civic and you drive a 90s Integra stock with like how they were, there's nothing particularly great about those cars, like, that you had to have them other than what I just talked about, what Car and Driver used to say. They are super great cars for what they were priced at. And the new ones, and I'm not going to make an excuse for it, the new Integra, I think they made a mistake in mismarketing.
It should have been an ILX.
It should have been an ILX or an RSX. I think they hyped it up a bit by like showing these sketches. The enthusiast community had these crazy sketches. People were expecting something that the car wasn't, and they were just
and the ads too, where it was the manual shifter shifting. They made it sound like it was going to be this exciting car.
Yeah.
And product planning, honestly, I think they fucked up by not either silencing everyone and saying they could have even lied and said there's a
Right.
Type S coming
Yeah.
or a Type S concept. But if they had done that, they would have fixed, I think, some of the hate for the car right off the bat.
Yeah, I think there's some definite misses there and some lessons to be learned. You got to be real careful treading on a nostalgia product. Any nostalgia
Yeah,
product.
movies have the same problem
Yeah.
all the time too.
Yeah, and what we're just Top Gun, for example,
Yeah.
like they knew how to spin up nostalgia, right? They took the original concept, they didn't screw it up, they amped it up, kept all the cheese, all the stuff, and just outdid themselves while not pissing off anybody. That's like a rare case of like actually redoing nostalgia by basically recreating it. And the problem is, and Jonathan told me this when I was talking to him about the Integra, they cannot go back. They do not have an engine family to create that high
They
revving.
have no motors that
They
can do
don't
that.
have that anymore. It just does not exist. And like I said, the management, they're super conservative. Like they are not going to take the risk of spinning up an enthusiast product like that in this time period, at this day and age. It's just done. And does that make the Integra a bad car? No, but it's not what people, the enthusiast mindset, wanted from it. They wanted a throwback car, and it's not what it is.
I'm going to guarantee you that the current Integra, the one that everybody hates, will be a relative sales success. Everyone said it's going to die. People don't realize that the ILX, that car was a turd.
Yeah.
But that car sold really, really well in its segment because all the other cars in that segment are turds too. The A3 and the 228i, or whatever the base model is. I mean, that's all the Integra has to compete against, and it probably will do quite well in its segment.
Time will tell. And that's kind of where I left it. I mean, let the sales number judge it, but also the sales to the ILX defense, like Jonathan had that car redone and the refresh was much better than the
but they only
original.
sold like 15,000 a year.
Right. It wasn't a high volume. And they said that the Integra is not going to be a high volume mover either. So, if they sell 15,000, they're probably going to be happy with it. I mean, I don't know. I'll just leave it at that.
Is there any other topic you want to talk about before I talk about our projects? And then I'll answer some of the unpaid questions, get into all the paid questions.
Okay. So the next one is the Z video. I'm sure anybody that's watching this has seen the Z video. And that was quite the project. And I don't know that there was a huge backlash with that video or the car itself. I think some of the backlash was the trim levels
And the pricing.
So I'm going to ask you a question, Jack. This is unrelated to the Z. What in 1996 was 300 horsepower and $45,422 base?
I have no idea. I honestly have no idea. Was it a Corvette?
$45,000
in 1996.
In 1996 with 300 horsepower.
Supra or
a 300ZX was $45,000 in 96.
What is that in
price.
inflation wise?
It doesn't matter. How much is the new Z?
40 grand.
40 to 50 grand.
Yeah.
So I think people are forgetting the fact of how expensive those, and I know you're going to compare it to the Z, like the 370Z and all that, but relative, I think if they would fix the trim levels, I think it would eliminate a lot of the problems with the Z.
And they're going to.
Yeah.
That car, it's probably the last generation of this Z, but they're going to have 5 billion different trim levels. There's going to be a Nismo,
right.
150%.
Yeah.
They're next year they're probably going to fix the problem and put an LSD in the base model or call it the Sport.
Right, or some
so they're going to maybe fix it. And to be fair to the Z, again, we have not driven it on the street.
Yes.
Now I have, but
okay.
We have not really driven it on the street, and we haven't driven it on our home track. But I think, given what that car is, a dedicated sports car for $40,000 to $50,000, it's a lot of vehicle. And people forget, with inflation, a 350Z with similar performance grades, like the performance pack cars with the diffs and the brakes, cost more than the current Z at 50 grand. So.
And I know the big thing, and I know that a lot of the people who are going to watch this, it's the joke. We're talking about these prices like, okay, that's what you can actually buy it for. I understand we're in a weird period of time where
you ain't getting a Z.
You're not getting any
grand.
car for what they're selling it for. But like, let's say this corrects, the economy takes a shit, like it's likely, and they're going to make all these cars next year and nobody's going to buy them because loans are going to be at 12% interest. But when the prices come down to normal for new cars again, you're going to look at cars like the Z, the Corolla. These are very, very special cars for where they're at in this period of time. And I hope that people, if you don't buy them, I really hope that you get to drive them and experience them before we get to this like cookie cutter, everything is EV. Like
about 5 years left, and maybe 10
yeah,
of cars being exciting.
Yeah.
Cars are basically best case scenario going to be like the NSX,
Yeah.
where they're crazy fast, the new NSX, and you don't feel anything.
Right.
Best case scenario.
All right, Z project. Let's go on to the next one. What's the upcoming stuff, Jack?
So we are big surprise. There's a C8Z video hopefully coming. I just did a call with the small block team on the C6Z06. The original small block team who worked on that car there's 5 guys, all the senior leaders, spent maybe an hour with me. So you are finally getting a C6Z06 video. I know that was also a paid question.
Okay.
And it's a stock C6Z06. It has like an exhaust. So it's stock, more or less.
Right.
We're doing, allegedly, if it actually happens, we're doing a mirror video. So hopefully you guys watch that. And Lotus has claimed they are going to give us full support. I don't know what their claim is worth. I learned this negativity from Mark. I don't believe anything until the project's actually happening. And to be fair, most of our projects we've done have had bumps in the road along the way.
Yeah, for sure.
We are doing an FDRX7 project, and we are doing a Supra project with Albon, a Mark IV Supra project. So you guys finally get to see a video on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of those are the enthusiast cars, and then of course NSX, right?
Yes.
That's the one. So obviously there's a lot of enthusiast cars to blend out the year, and I'll be 100% honest. Okay. These enthusiast car projects are a blessing and a curse, because in some cases it helps to do the next one. But on the other case, they are an enormous waste of time and energy given the return on what it is. So we're spending about a month on the NSX video, more than likely.
Oh, it's going to be way worse than that. So we've had Peter Cunningham, a mechanic who's ran a very reputable NSX shop. We had John Ikeda, Jonathan Rivers, and there's a high likelihood, it sounds like, I'm getting Mugen of Japan involved, and some of the original development people who worked on the original NSX. Acura's already sent us the cars. We shot them on track. The old NSX is very special, and I don't want to put too much out there. But this is going to be our Christmas video, and we're going to try to stock all the, I hate to call them the Legends cars, but the Supra and the RX-7 in it as well. So you will finally get
you're going to get pretty much all of them this year, and most of them will be stacked up near the end of the year.
Yes.
And it's not a big surprise why, but that's where the best return is, because ad rates go up on YouTube in November and December. It's not a big mystery, but honestly, from my perspective, if I'm going to spend a month of my life making some of these videos, I want them to have a maximum return, because we're not getting paid to do this, physically, some of these projects.
Certain videos we're going to have to play the embargo game for, like the C8Z06.
Right.
Chevy ain't giving us special access, probably.
Yeah.
So that's going to go out with everything else.
We'll have we'll have probably like the Z, we'll have a huge amount of resources to it, but it has to come out and it gets watered down with everybody else's video. But I enjoy the fact that we can put more effort and energy to provide more information on some of these cars. It just gets really, really defeating oftentimes. And I think like that Toyota video we just did, which is one of the last topics here. If you guys haven't watched it, watch the Toyota infotainment or that video on how the future of cars. And I wanted to do this project desperately for a long time. And a lot of the manufacturers, they literally just don't tell you anything. Either they don't do it in-house. Most companies do not develop their own infotainment in-house. It's to multiple tiers of suppliers and third-party contracts. So you never really get a full detail of how it was done, why it was done that way, because they don't even have full control over it. And anything is so whitewashed over with, or just watered down from the marketing shill, that you never get information. So point is, Toyota really, we got access to executive leadership, the people, the engineers that were involved. They really went.
People who are far more important than we deserve.
Yes, 100%. We're talking like top level people. We learned how the business was built from the ground up in America. They got to develop it over Japan, and that infighting that happened to realize, like, look, what we're doing is not working. And then for Japan to release such a major piece of we're going to talk about hundreds of millions of cars eventually, right?
Yes.
To have that come to America, to have that team spearhead it, and then to collaborate together. I know that sounds very marketing wise, but it's crazy the amount of work that goes into that. And a lot of the comments were very negative, like, this is a total Toyota ad. Why do we need this shit in cars? And we asked that very question. I was there, like, why do you do this? And I had a follow-up call with them, and I'm like, people were upset that it feels very marketing, that why are you doing this? Why not just make the cars better? And the truth is, you cannot sell a modern car, a mainstream car, without this stuff in it. And not only do you have to have it in there, but it has to be decent. It actually has to be good now, because that bar is getting raised. People care more about how big the screen is in the car from a sales perspective, a showroom perspective, than how the steering wheel works, or, is the transmission programmed properly, or is the suspension. Nobody cares about that stuff, the mass majority of people. So the technology is taken center point. That's where we're at. That was what the story was about. And I hope to expand on that in like greater technical detail, how each layer is done with multiple companies.
So here's my question in regards to that, and I'll bake it into a paid question. I was just asked by a generic account. Thank you for the $20. And I appreciate that you liked our RZ video, our Toyota video and RZ video, I hope as well. But will manufacturers just give up and go with CarPlay 2? Now that CarPlay 2 is going to be integrated into all these vehicles. Well, for Toyota, probably not.
I will tell you why. Okay. So this is what people ask this all the time. Why not just have Android Automotive or a complete Apple iOS takeover in a car? The reason why, like, companies like Toyota and other companies will not adopt this is because when they agree to that, they hand over all the customer data as a part of that agreement to Apple and to Google. They don't get full exclusive access to all of that data.
And that data is worth a lot of money.
That is why that's what this fight is over. Google and Apple are not like, oh, here you go. No, part of the deal is by giving all that information up to take over the interior, you're getting access to that user telemetry data, and it goes out of the manufacturer hands. There's a lot of contractual stuff, but most of the time, and Toyota said this, and I've read this and talked to other brands, they lose control over the user experience and that data, and they want that. So, the joke is like, oh, why would you want this shit in your car? Because they're already taking your data from your phone, right? Why not mirror your phone to your car? Well, I mean, it's not that easy. And it's not that easy. As soon as you hand this over, you're handing over a lot of control. And the company, like, Toyota's smart about it. Like, at least they're looking at the customer privacy a little bit more seriously than, like, you're going to see a lot of cars. Like, we just got out of that GM, Android Automotive. It's like canned Android Automotive. It is like 100% Google. Mm-hmm. And there's no way to dial out like permissions. You can get into developer options, but there's no way to really turn off what Google's tracking or taking. And as soon as you log into that car, Google's like, yeah, now we have millions of cars.
It may be randomized, but they can build a custom profile.
No, they know exactly who you are. Like, there's no even hiding it. Once you're logged in, like the features in the GM.
No,
right?
when they sell their data.
Right. Well, it depends on what the contracts are and who the company they're working with. And clearly, the more these companies want to know more. And if they have their VIN, they have your age demographics, they're going to have all that. It's about buying and selling data. So this is going to become a more important topic as we go on. And, most people don't care, but I think it's important because every single car is going to have this shit in it. Whether you like it or not, your data is going somewhere and it's going into the cloud. So
I think while we're on that topic about access with OEMs, a comment that comes up a lot, and one of the non-paid comments brought this up, says, I find that more sponsorship/access car viewers get, the more glowing the reviews they give them to maintain access. I think for us, so we're an engineering-based channel, right? Obviously, we're a technical-based channel. And when we are given a lot of access to engineering, it's not that we're giving them a more glowing review. It's not my goal when they do this. It's that we have 45 minutes or 25 minutes, and all I do, my view, at least, I don't know how you take this. We don't actually talk about this that often, but I'm just trying to tell you what they did. And I'm leaving it up to you to decide whether or not you find value in it. I will talk about what they did and how it translates, good or bad, into the driving experience. And
Right.
then I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, because the problem is once you start getting more access to people and engineers, the stakes go up, right? You're going up the corporate ladder of getting access to people. So from my perspective, like when we did the 8CR, what the hell was that? HRV,
Yeah.
right? We did a first look and people like, this is so watered down. Why don't you talk about the exterior? I mean, okay, it looks like an Escape, but it looks like every other CUV and SUV. I don't even care anymore, because the people that are buying this car literally are not going to care how I think it looks. So I can tell Honda on the back end, like, okay, yeah, it's great. The bumper looks great. You painted the fenders. Wow. So that doesn't really bring a lot of value of me wasting my time to talk about stuff they don't particularly care about, unless there's a real problem with it. Like,
Mhm.
do the headlights, does the output from the headlights suck? Or is there glare on the dashboard? Like real technical things that I can talk about that are actually an issue, versus just complaining about like the looks of something. They're going to go through the comments themselves on every video or every article, and they're going to see people think it looks like shit. And then they're going to take the buyer's information, more importantly, the people that actually buy it, and the dealership's info over what I'm going to say in some video. So it's this slippery slope of it. The more access we get, I don't want to just piss on people's shoes, because it's really, really hard to get an engineer to tell you what they did to these cars.
So I just spent time with the Escalade V engineers. I'm like the one asshole that actually talked to these dudes. And you and I joked that GM is like OCP,
Yeah.
where like, I'm sure they shoot engineers and throw them out the building tops.
Yeah.
But these dudes spent an unbelievable amount of time with me, and they are really passionate about talking about the technical stuff. And not to pat ourselves on our own backs, but most people at press events don't ask them anything.
Right,
There's
right.
like is it cool? It's fast. How big's the screen? And I asked these guys questions, and for better or for worse, I didn't have an argument with them, but I talked to them in the most professional way possible, and I know my place.
Right.
Even if I disagree with one of the decisions, like the Escalade V doesn't do rolling burnouts like I want it to do. I'm not going to be like, why the fuck doesn't it do rolling burnouts? I know it can't do rolling burnouts.
Right.
I'm not going to score journalist points by saying that. So anyway, I just wanted to touch on that topic.
I think, it's hard, because most of the people that watch this, like we see the back end, and then I see the business side. And the more I see the business side, the more it just like evaporates my passion for this stuff. Because really, you get out of the corporate world to do something like this, and then you realize you're still working in the corporate world, because these companies are some of the biggest companies in the world. And the people behind it are career professional jobs for a lot of brands, and their brand values and their brand image and all this stuff is hyper
ingrained into these people to survive.
Right. So you're not going to go to an event, and we joked around about this. Like, people are expecting Toyota to be like trashing their own infotainment. Like, this is stupid, but we have to do it. They're never going to say that. The designers are never going to be like, we put piano black in the car. This is horrible. We hate it, but it sells cars. They're never going to be that blunt about it. Now, some people will talk to us and they'll level with us and give us a real explanation. Like Mazda is a good example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Or Porsche, or, Toyota is really good. These three brands come to mind because they're very transparent about what they're doing. They'll tell you right up front, like, look, this is why, but this is why we think it's a value.
They at least defend their decisions.
Right.
Whether I agree with it or not, I will do my best to tell you why they're doing it. And then I'll leave it up to you.
Exactly. And it's the same thing with our videos, right? The Z video or some of these huge projects, they're 40 minutes long. I can't convince somebody, they're like, why this video is way too long. I don't care about any of this shit. I want to be entertained. 100% accurate. If you want to go watch Throttle House, you're going to be more entertained than watching us. And I'm not saying that video is better than this one. But again, it's about that difference of opinion. I can sell you on why I think our work is worth your time, but that video is not going to have the same value to every single person. And that's kind of how these manufacturers are looking at it. Like, we get what you're saying, but our target market is X, and we think it's going to appeal to them. And at the end of the day, only they know, well, they have sales. We don't have sales to know. But if our viewership dies, we know that we're in the wrong direction. If all our comments are filled with people like, we hate your guts, this is stupid, we don't want to know about the control arm on this car, we would know right away. And they're looking at a lot of the same data in different ways. And there's not really one right answer. I'm just gonna stop
No,
rambling.
no. I just wanted us to say huge thanks to Ed Starr, who just donated $100. Ed, thank you very much.
It's not just thanks, Ed. It's excessive, and to everybody else that pays to ask questions, it's completely unnecessary. We greatly appreciate it because Jack gets paid like $700 an hour, so every time
I'm a businessman after all.
It's just, I have
Mark, when I promote you to VP later, don't disappoint me. I hate to drink alone.
Yeah. I'm going to go get a chocolate choo-choo. Speaking of that, Jack, I'm going to depart just for a second to grab my meal.
I will. Oh, God, I can't wait. I will answer some of these questions while you are gone.
And if there's anything that's a hot topic,
I will save it.
Oh, you can't show belly in this. I'm sorry if you just saw some belly.
No, they're not sorry, Mark.
No, they love it.
All right. So while Mark is gone, I will answer some of the questions that are unpaid again. All right, let's go through some of these. One of the questions I got again is, how is the GR86 doing? Well, you're going to see it in our video that hopefully will come out sometime this year on our second update. But, oh my God, what the hell did you just... Your Wagyu burger?
It's Arby's came through. It's actually not Arby's.
Is it? Anyway, the 86 is fine. I mean, you and I both driven it. Really, my only disappointment with it so far, and you can probably hear this from other journalists, for something that slow and that light, it does not get good fuel economy. I know I shouldn't be complaining about MPGs on a sports car, but it gets the same highway fuel economy doing like a little bit over 80 miles an hour that my C7 Grand Sport gets, which is heavier, has over double the displacement and double the horsepower. So, there is kind of a big problem with that in my mind. Again, I shouldn't complain about sports cars, but that's fuel economy in sports cars, but that's pretty pathetic. Another question is S2000 versus Cayman versus 86, assuming they're all the same price. What would you? Well, Mark's off camera. He'll probably say S2000. I will argue the Cayman is probably the best driving out of all of them. If you get an LSD, it has the best motor, flat six. But you'll have the highest running costs, and it's probably, honestly, at the limit, not as good to drive as a well-set up S2000. The 86 is probably the only car I would daily because of the warranty and all that other fun stuff, and be comfortable putting a lot of miles on, because now, the Porsches are coming up in money, and I'm sure once you put miles on them, they're not worth all that much. And S2000s, crazily enough, have become investment items, which is nuts. Which, if you're going to buy a sports car and you can't drive it because of its value, it kind of ruins the whole point of owning a sports car. That conversation with someone, a friend of mine, who just bought an F80 M3. He's like, "Oh, I bought a limited color F80 M3. Didn't I make a great..." Oh, thank you for the broccoli, Mark. "Didn't I make a great decision?" And I'm like, dude, the best part about that car is you can drive it all the time. If you aren't able to drive an F80, it ruins the point of half the reason you're buying that car.
I agree with you, but we're getting to that point with some of these cars. And Jason just got back to me from Chicago Auto Bros. I dropped my car off.
And that answers the question. Are we doing another collab video with Chicago Auto Bros? Yes, we are.
Yeah, on dry ice. They're just finished it now. So they were doing dry ice stuff on the S2000. And obviously, I just got done tracking it. So I dropped it off to them like obliterated. So they did the dry ice cleaning, which I'm going to talk about. That's supposed to be steamed broccoli, by the way. It's like just cut up broccoli, not cooked. No, I guess it's fresh. It's fresher that way. So yeah, they started doing dry ice cleaning, and I recorded it, and then I saw a video and somebody linked me to it that they did where they stripped all the undercoating off with the dry ice, and I'm like, oh my God, great. I hope I hope that's not standard practice, but really what it is they go to the level of detail of stripping off all the undercoating and dirt that gets embedded with it, and then they re-undercoat it. I mean, now that the car is coming back like this, to your point, I'm like, the car is so clean now that I almost feel bad. Like, I probably won't track it again. I just, like, I think it's out of my system. And if I was going to track something, it would be something a lot more like hardcore. I just feel bad, like mentally feel bad.
Well, at least till whatever stupid car I'm buying shows up, we'll have the 86 for you to pound on. It was the whole point of that car. When I bought it was so you could track it, not just me. So,
and I haven't.
No, we just have no goddamn time ever. So that's the joy of this job. I know, honestly, we could be digging ditches. We could have a worse job, but anyhow.
I throw out my back digging a ditch. The only ditches I'm digging is for my own grave.
Yeah, you should see the plots in the backyard for him.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get into some of the paid questions because people have been
Hounding you with money.
hounding poor Chris with money.
Oh, Chris.
Yeah, so Chris Chinface makes his first appearance ever in one of our videos. He was stupid enough to come with me to Arizona in 109-degree weather to drive an Escalade, and he doesn't say a whole lot other than the fact that there's pure fear in his eyes as I VMAX out an Escalade.
Oh, you VMAX it?
Yeah, VMAXed it.
Oh, you can't talk about how fast it goes, though.
No, I can't. It goes some speed. It goes 55 miles an hour according to the highway code.
If you guys are really, really jonesing for a video, Monday, that Escalade video comes out. And let me tell you, it's a world-class exclusive that only the best, some of the best people worked on this video. Let me just tell you that right now.
They did wonderful work.
They used
my body double did wonderful work.
Yeah, the body double is one of the best in the industry. The screen that we used was 72 inches, and we're talking about cutting edge technology here. Bonded glass, just stunning looking. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about with it?
No. Well, there are. I'm going to try to cycle through all the questions as quickly as I can because people are asking real questions, Mark.
Okay.
All right. Question 1. Wow. And anyway, Chris is doing a good job getting these to me. George, thank you for your $2.
George, thank you, buddy.
Admiral Akbar for $10. Admiral, thank you for the $10. I recently watched a review on the 2023 Chevy Bolt EUV. Expecting a laugh. I was surprised that it's a 250-mile EV for $28,000. Will you review it and let me know if it was decent or literally a flaming turd? If that was Tom Volk's video, I also watched that. Tom is a gentleman in real life. You've met Tom. I don't know. The way I view GM is and I've told Mark this as well, there are 3 divisions of GM internally. There might as well be 3 different companies. There's a company that makes turds, like the Chevy Trax, the Buick Encore, just total pieces of garbage. The Traverse, bad cars. There is a truck team. The truck team honestly does pretty good work. There's a reason why they sell a bajillion of them. And then you have the enthusiast car team. They make things like the Corvette, the V cars, and some of the higher end truck products. They are genuinely world-class engineers. I have no idea where the Volt falls in. How was the Volt, a car I never spent any time with, Mark? Was it a turd or was it all right?
You got to put in perspective the price that they're selling them at.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big thing. I don't really want to judge it because in GM fashion, they're not very committed to products long term, right?
Unless it's a Corvette or a truck.
Right. So like you look at Ford, and we talked about this in other live streams, right? Parts get discontinued at 10 years and you're not getting it. It's really hard to even get a refurb. So, Chevy just discontinued battery packs on their like shit box EVs that were early on, and you can't get them. So that'll be the true test of how committed they are to some of these like more economy or commodity EVs. If you can, are they just going to be thrown in the garbage in 10 years? I mean, if you're just buying it and you're not going to keep it long term,
it's probably for $28,000. It's pretty impressive.
And can you get parts for it? I mean, that's the thing. I don't know. I mean, it's fine.
I will try to get one, and I will try to put it on the channel. We maybe overcorrected a bit on our end, but because people are like, why don't you do EVs? And I scheduled an unbelievable number of EVs in a row, which no one really watched those videos, but I am trying to do my due diligence based upon your requests as viewers. YouTube channel named String. Thank you for your $2. I know I already answered this question, but we are doing a C6Z06 video. A very kind viewer has offered us his stock car, and he will let us track it as well, which is very, very nice. And I will do, the video will probably be humorless because we have engineering support. I got to get through a lot of information, but I'm going to try to answer questions that people may be interested on if they're going to buy one of these cars, including the valve retainer failures. I talked to the engineers at General Motors who built that motor, and I asked them those questions. So I'm going to go over that in the video as well. So hopefully that will answer anyone's questions. We've answered the question from Mohammed. Thank you for the $2. Tucson versus CX-50. He hates the Tucson because of the way it looks. So CX-50. And then the other question that Mohammed asked as well is, Any electric vehicles you are excited about? Any manual cars you're excited about?
The Akio Toyota edition Corolla.
Which I rode in. Mark didn't. Mark chose not to ride in that car.
I had the option of actually driving an LC500, an RCF Fuji edition, a Supra, and some other pile on track. So I chose to just drive the shit out of those cars while you got to ride along in a Corolla.
Yep.
Who won?
I did, because I took a selfie with the assistant chief engineer.
Okay, well.
These very kind Japanese men and women are like, oh, other Asian man. And they came up and spoke to me.
I was the total usual douchebag guy who went to a press event and didn't talk to the people that they flew in for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I spoke for them for an hour.
I knew you were talking to them, so that's why I just went and drove.
Yeah, I know. But anyway,
the manual Supra obviously is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
The Z is exciting. The new CTR is going to be exciting. The manual gearbox is tremendous in those.
And that's being premiered here soon at like the Tokyo Auto Salon, or maybe it's having a launch
I
event.
think the launch event's at the end of the year, October.
For us, it happens in Japan before us.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
How dare they? It's made in America.
Well, we're not the primary market. Any electric vehicles you're excited for?
All of them. If you work for a manufacturer and you're making an electric car, they're all amazing. Just keep making them.
We're doing a Rivian video for someone asked that question.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, remember I had a call. Yeah,
I was kind of wondering.
And they're going to give us engineering support, assuming Rivian's still in business by the time we do the video.
I know. Yeah, it's not that. It's the economy is scary. Really with this stuff.
Next question from Zero GN. Thank you for your $20, Zero.
Zero G.
Zero GN.
Oh, okay. I thought he was Zero G.
No. Your bowels are going to go 0G after what you just ate.
Actually, it's not that bad, surprisingly.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, it was very enjoyable. And the broccoli is a nice touch. My dietitian told me that I should break up my meals with have a vegetable, have a fruit,
have a Twinkie,
have a starch, have all that instead of just having bread. That's like every meal I have is a pancake, a bagel, a waffle, and a donut.
Yeah, you eat real well, Mark.
Yeah.
Hey guys, supporting you as always. Again, thank you for the $20. Moving to the Midwest, Indiana from Arizona. My current daily is a 2022 6-speed Veloster N. What smaller truck would you recommend? Small bed Tacoma, old F-150 for snow driving, and can tow. Honestly, what people don't understand is trucks aren't that great in the snow because they have, typically the rear biased. Even with more aggressive tires, they struggle with traction. And if you're looking for something to tow, and you want a truck, get like an old Lexus GX. I'm sure it can tow. The Topher owned one for a long time. Or I'd get like a Tacoma that could tow. Sorry, not Tacoma, 4Runner. But if you really, really want a truck, make sure you put sand in the bed. Chin Face drives an F-150 in the snow all year round.
Yeah, Eco Boost for life.
Because he's a tough man. He doesn't believe in V8s. They have too many cylinders.
Yeah, the V8s make me sick. I would agree with you. I would also disagree with you that you could get a Tacoma and never lose a cent on it.
True.
Although it's not great to drive, but as a secondary vehicle, it's like pure utilitarianism with that thing.
But if he's buying this big vehicle for the purpose of snow, he could also do it in an SUV, and an SUV can also tow.
But you don't have a bed.
True. Tacoma would also be great. And buy snow tires if you're coming from Arizona.
Yeah, just buy snow tires. It solves that problem.
Absolutely, you need to buy snow tires. All seasons are not a very good choice.
But they're fine on my Kia Sportage. My Kruggins.
Paul Carl Lucas for $10. I want the neighbors to think I have more money than I do. Lincoln Nautilus Genesis GV70.
Oh, GV70.
Yeah.
I saw somebody today in a GV80, which is rare out here. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I pulled up next to them, because it was on the 3-lane coming down here, pulled up next to them in my BMW X7 M50i package. God, and they heard the rumble of the V8 coming next to them, and they pegged it. I mean, they were flying, and everybody's looking at this guy going flat out, and they thought it was a Bentley, and so did I. So that's the goal for you.
I'm also going to say this about Genesis, and if our illustrious single Genesis rep for all of there's one Genesis rep for all of North America. That dude is like 10 million emails a day. Yeah, I'm sure.
I feel bad for him.
I met a guy yesterday, one of the guys who brought one of the many NSXs for our NSX shoot. He's the guy who brought the white one. He was telling me that his favorite sedan he's ever owned, and this is a guy who just got rid of a Bentley Flying Spur, is the G90, the big boy.
Oh yeah, the G90. Yeah.
He's like that more than any luxury car he's ever owned, including like new S classes and shit.
Did he
So,
say why?
quiet?
They are very quiet.
He says it's quieter than the Bentley Flying Spur he got rid of. I don't think I would get rid of a Flying Spur for a G90.
Okay, so let's be real about the NVH or in the cabin noise. It depends on where you're sitting. It depends what roads you're on. It depends what tires. So there's a lot of variables to that. But the GV or the G90 and G80 are, for the price, really two of the quietest cars.
They just don't drive that well.
I think the G80 drives great. I think it drives better than the LS.
Sure, I'll give you that. But I think
as a luxury car, I'm not talking about like dynamically.
Next question. QX Angel XP for $10.79. Thank you for your $10.79. Are you guys ready for 10-gallon premium gas?
Ooh. I'm not.
I'm not either.
I don't. Is anybody? I don't care how much money you have. Nobody likes to see that.
I don't know what. I'm not going to get political here, but I don't know what needs to be done. But Mark,
nuke them.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what needs to be done as far as fixing fuel prices go, but we're lucky in the position where it hurts us, but it's not like financially devastating. The gas prices.
It is pretty financially devastating.
Sure. Okay. It's not great, but it's not like we live literally dollars left in our banking account every single month.
I don't know. I just filled up that X7 2 days ago at $145.
Yeah, it's bad.
You know where the tank is at? 60 miles range in 2 days. Yeah. So I'm literally going to spend $300 in less than a week. That's just for a week.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's like a car payment. I mean, not a modern car payment, but by the end of the month, I'm probably going to spend $1,000 because we're going to and from, like we drove to Autobahn Country Club to film the NSX video. And then you're driving it on track all day, and then it's coming back. And, it's so, obviously I don't need a V8 SUV, but, a lot of cars, you're getting 20 miles to the gallon. And if you have a 20-gallon tank, and it's, I don't know how people do it that are on that knife edge of affordability. And I just read articles, I think it was from Forbes. It's not about what media, but they were talking about how credit card debt and your credit card usage in the past month is like skyrocketed. It makes sense, right? What are you going to do if you don't have the disposable money? You're going to start racking it up in debt. So, that's the fallout of this is people are going to max out their credit cards.
And of course, gas companies have made record profits.
We've had this argument for the past, everybody always has this argument for the past 25 years with oil speculation, why gas prices go up. And then the oil prices go down and then gas goes up anyway, because then that's what was happening in us like 4 or 5 years ago. There were refinery fires in like Indiana. So then the Midwest gas prices go up like by $1 compared to everybody else. It's always some bullshit with it. So in the case of electric cars, if you're in that bubble of like understanding that, there's other things to charge the infrastructure and all that. I get from a normal person's perspective, like that knee-jerk reaction to jump to an EV would solve a lot of this in the short term. But eventually you're going to wind up paying for it one way or another.
Next question. I know that was real
well,
light stuff.
It's irrelevant. It's relevant to this today.
At Cash, thank you for the $10. Thanks, guys, for the content. I just put down at MSRP a base manual GTI to be my do-it-all. Thoughts on the GTI at that price for $31,000? Well, you're going to like our comparison test that comes out whenever he edits it.
You're going to like it. If I don't want to edit it.
Because we had a base manual GTI without, I can't believe the base car doesn't have keyless entry, but it has keyless start. But you have a base GTI, a Civic Si.
It has keyless entry.
It did?
Yeah, and when you have a remote that can unlock the doors.
But like when you hold the door.
Yeah, Jack's so fucking bougie now that if a car doesn't have like a button on the door or like proximity, that's not keyless anymore. So yeah, it doesn't have, you have to click the remote to open the door.
But you don't have to put the key in to start it, which makes no fucking sense to me.
I don't know. Whatever.
All right, anyway.
This is like,
but all right.
You're going to complain it didn't have a 12-inch screen in the side?
I'm going to complain it doesn't make 1,000 horsepower at 80 miles per gallon, and it isn't a brown wagon diesel.
Yeah, that's next.
The Jalopnik.
I got you you can write some articles for Jalopnik after this.
Oh, perfect. for $31,000, dude, it's a good car. I mean, is it the most engaging thing in the world?
What, the GTI?
Yeah, it's a good
I
car.
forgot we were even talking about that car already.
He doesn't like it. I like it.
No, I
There
mean,
you go.
no, there's nothing wrong with it. It's actually good. The new one's good. I hope they refresh it and go back to it. Once they refresh it and get rid
fix
of the
interior,
bullshit,
yeah.
it's a great car. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it aside from that.
The shittiest thing about the car you just bought is the way that you have to deactivate traction control through the infotainment, which you can't get to unless you're stopped. So if you find yourself on a fun road suddenly, you're like, oh, I'm going to turn off traction control. You can't do it unless you pull over and stop.
Which to me on a front wheel drive car is really annoying. The all-wheel drive system is less of an issue. Like I would never turn it off on an all-wheel drive car because it's really always there anyway.
Mhm.
But front wheel drive, I want to feel wheel hop. I want to feel torque steer. I want the car to pull me off the road into the gravel because I'm sawing at a wheel from just to feel everything.
You feel a lot.
I feel alive.
But hopefully that answers your question. Honestly, dude, for $31,000, I hope you like your car.
You will, 100%.
Ben Jones for $5. Thank you for the $5. With GM dropping the price of the Bolt, what does that do for people trying to get into EVs? Considering it as my daily driver for work and errands. For $28,000, if it really has a 250 mile range, not 250,000, but 250 mile range, it's probably.
Does it have a heat pump? Probably not.
I have no idea.
Is the battery heated?
I know nothing about that vehicle.
Okay. Well, get GM on the phone right now.
Well,
call John Bolt from the PR division. He'll tell you. So if I don't know, like maybe you can answer somebody in the comments. Does it have a heat pump or is the battery heated? Because if it doesn't, then that would be the thing of like you're going to lose a lot of efficiency on it if you're in a cold climate. If you're not, then I mean, 28 grand is really good.
Yeah, it's probably really cheap. Smiles 11 for $10. Smiles, it's good to see you again. Will there be a GT3 touring review in the works? Maybe a comparison review to a winged GT3 because it's identical. I can tell you right now, there will not be a comparison video between a regular GT3 and a GT3 touring.
We drove them both back to back.
Yeah,
like literally for a couple days, and we shot a GT3 touring video, and I got done with it, and I'm like, it's the same car. Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. It's just whether you like a wing or not.
We are going to do a more digestible, fun track video with a really shorter like shop segment on the GT3.
I'm sorry, it's not the same car. The interior trim's a bit different. They changed like certain things on the interior.
The leather quilting is different. On the interior.
I mean, there's like subtle differences.
Yeah, but it's the same
mechanically,
it's the same car. But you'll get another GT3 video this summer. I'm trying to get a GT4 RS, and we'll do a GTS track video this summer, assuming Porsche smiles on us like they promised they would.
Oh, they will. You know why? Because we're gonna make or break Porsche.
I'm sure.
I mean, they're never. I mean, if they don't give us a car again, you can imagine the
dealers
sales
will only be able to charge $50,000 ADM versus $51,000.
You mean $99,999 versus $100?
Yeah, the local dealer told me. I think they sold one of the GT4 RS spots for $100,000 over sticker. I nearly fell over. I'm like, what the fuck? All right. Anyway, yeah, real cool. Brian Para for $20. Should I trade my C7 Z06 manual coupe for a C8 Z51 convertible? Also, Wrangler 392 Wrangler 392 Bronco Wild Track, Wrangler Extreme Recon with one touch roof, or something else to replace the Gladiator.
I like that one touch roof thing.
Yeah, it was cool.
I like that a lot. I mean, it's like you think, oh, this is stupid, and then you get in and you're like, man, that's easy.
To answer the Z06 question, if you are ever planning on doing track driving or having fun with it at an autocross, keep your C7 Z06. That car's badass. The longer I own my C7, the more I like it.
I will agree. C7 Z06.
Imagine my car with another 200 horsepower.
Don't get rid of it. Honestly,
yeah.
I mean, the new car is fine. I think the Z06, the new car,
is going to be amazing.
That's a car it's gonna go into the collector hall. But I mean, just hold on to it for now.
Wrangler 392 Wrangler or Bronco.
Oh, the V8 pile?
Yeah. V8.
Oh man, that car's such a pile, but so good. The Bronco, the Raptor Bronco?
He said Bronco Wild Track. It's the one with the higher output V6. We drove it briefly at the Bronco launch.
I like the Bronco better as an overall car. Like if I had to buy it and you actually use it every day. But if it was just a screw around car, like I wanted to go to the beach with my 10 girlfriends, I'd probably get a 392 because I think they would wind up liking that better.
And the V8's hilarious.
Yeah, but it's not good.
Has any recent car positively surprised you? I can
Like
answer
new car?
any car. NSX. You didn't think you'd like the NSX, and then you did.
All right, so this is what's weird about these cars in retrospect, right? So I never wanted an NSX. I like the S2000 because the ethos behind
Gen 1 NSX.
Gen 1. So the ethos behind it was they got to do a Honda that was for a driver's car versus being watered down, not watered down, but to be more accessible. That's what the NSX was. It was more comfortable, blah, blah, blah. So that S2000 appealed to me. It was that harder edge driver's car. And now that I've gotten older, what I didn't like about the NSX, I like about it. And it's still amazing to drive on track. And the big thing with those cars is you realize how you always thought that would get better, that formula, and it never did. So the NSX, when you drive it hard, I'm not talking about on the street, when you actually drive it hard, like the old ones with a manual steering rack, you're like, why can't we have this anymore? And then you realize it's just not going to happen anymore. And you go back to that car and you're like, I want this. And that's exactly why they're all like $100,000 now.
Also, the way it drives. Like when you drive the NSX on the street, it's one of the few cars when they say Jekyll and Hyde, they really mean it. Like you drive around the street, it is so soft. My old man who helps us with a lot of these videos drove the NSX out to the track for us, the 91, which came right out of the museum. And he's like, yeah, it's like driving a Honda Accord. But you take one corner in anger, the way the steering loads up, the way the motor sounds when you're in VTEC, the original Gen NSX is amazing.
It's like, this is I will say this, and I'm going to repeat it in the video. Now that you get to see the passage of time and drive some of these older like cars like that, which are still relevant to the new cars, you start to appreciate the fact that you don't need a car to be as ridiculously fast as it is. I will trade off being able to blow the doors off of supercars or other cars and having this straight fast line speed, because that gets old. If you give me like the new NSX that's like mind-numbingly fast, and you get me in the old NSX, I don't care. I felt like I was going faster than the old car. I literally turned a day that was going to be a total shit show. I was extraordinarily happy. Just that experience of driving.
To answer his question, that surprised you though.
It did. It surprised me because I didn't think I'd feel that way. But it's just so telling that a lot of these new cars, they're hyper obsessed with the technical proficiencies of all the things they can do and wow you with speed.
That's my big fear for the C8 Z06.
Yeah, that they strip everything out of it so you can have a spec sheet that like blows people away, and then you don't have any fun driving it.
So hopefully that answers your question, Brian.
The NSX Gen 1 is not the greatest car on the planet. No. People are like, oh, it's overrated. In some cases it is, for sure. I mean, there's better, faster cars out there, but there's something special about
there's very few things more special about them.
For sure.
Brian Para, thank you for that, by the way. FK8 boosted for $10. I would buy a used Type R. The last enthusiast Honda is the Type R. I love my 2021. It drives like it looks to me, and it's grown on me.
I think my problem with that Type R was it's the polarizing exterior was just too much. However, as it is aged, because cars have gotten more proficiently ugly, that car, what they decided to do with it does match the exterior, and I appreciate that about it. That's actually one of the things I really appreciate about it. Now, I would never buy it because I couldn't tolerate the overstyled nature of it, but I really appreciate the fact that they did take a huge risk doing that, because from talking to Honda, they're risk adverse when it comes to that. So they did it there for one. So enjoy that car, man. I'm sure people will love it. You'll always have that group of people that'll feel that it's a pure Honda product.
And thank you for the $10. I think I am curious to see what the new Type R does, because the new Type R, according to our internal contacts, who are familiar with what that car is like, they say it's even faster than the old Type R around Suzuka, which is really the track they're doing the development driving at. And it looks like a car that you would buy, because I like the way the current gen Civic looks. Some people hate it. If it has the looks, it's even
a hatch, right? The hatch, yeah.
It's even faster. It has the good interior, and that's really my only complaint with the previous gen, is that the interior wasn't that nice. And it has the great seats. That car is going to be badass.
It depends on how much they charge for it, because if we start getting
it's going to be $100,000.
No, I mean that's the thing. Like that's what we're talking about with the Elantra N at the beginning of this. When you start to get at, if you can get a car Like, to me, if I'm younger and I don't have a huge budget and I want an enthusiast car, the Elantra N offers everything that that car does for a lot less. And when you get into the dealer markup of Type Rs, and yes, it will hold its value, $50,000 or $50,000 is a lot of money.
When you can
for a
buy an
Civic.
SS1LE, which will probably annihilate it,
Agreed. It just,
and it's rear-wheel drive.
yeah, yeah. That's it. I mean, that's what we just got done talking about with that old NSX. It's like there's something from a driver perspective. There's the enjoyment factor of getting a car that is like a rear wheel drive architecture. I'm not saying that the Civic doesn't do what it needs to do, but there's still that driving dynamics. If you've never been in a lot of cars, the Civic Type R is an amazing feeder car. It's an amazing car to have. It's one of the best front wheel drive cars ever. But eventually you're going to want to get to a rear wheel drive platform, and that's just like, to me, at that $50,000, I'd transition into that just because it's rear wheel drive.
All right, let's get back into some more questions. And people have noticed my fashion aggressive.
What are those?
I don't even know who makes these socks. No, it doesn't matter. For $20, Carl. Thank you, Carl, for the $20. My BMW M340i lease is coming to an end, and I'm torn between getting a GTS 4-liter Cayman or manual, or the new BMW M4 manual. I like my BMW, but it's been a dream of mine to buy a Porsche. Is it worth the premium over the?
Yes.
Absolutely. I like the longer I've spent time with the new M4, M3. I know you don't like it, but I think for what that car does, it's amazing. It is so fast. Get the Porsche. It's a better car. You feel something when you drive it.
Yeah. And again, tying back this whole statement of, we talked about this when we drove the Integra, or whatever the hell it was, the NSX, the Gen 1 on track, right? And I was talking about when you get through a corner and the car starts to oversteer, it oversteers because of loss of traction, right? You have to like make these micro corrections to get the car on the intended path, but you're working with the car. BMWs are always like, you're turning the wheel and then the back end is just doing this, and it's like power sliding and you're not feeling anything. And it's just, it's like, it's power oversteering just because that's the dynamic of the car. It's not like completely communicating what's happening. So there's this huge layer of disconnect with that car, where the Porsche, the GTS 4-liter, it has that like mechanical connection to the driving experience that is more special, feels a little bit older school, and there's not that layer of disconnect in the driving experience.
It's a slower car, but it's better to drive.
It's slower, 100%, but it's sharper. You're gonna get out of it after you drive it hard and feel like, I did something, right? I felt like I was driving this car.
Next question from Desrat for $10. Thank you for your $10 donation.
Thank you,
I'm buying a ND2 Miata. Are the club features worth the extra money? Yes.
Yes.
You want an LSD. You need an LSD.
Yes, all of it. Club is the best one. It's just a lot of money.
And you get a big brake kit. Literally.
Yeah, you just swap in pads and you're done. I mean, the suspension's still soft, but
And then if you do suspension, do like Oleans or some reasonable, non-crappy coilover.
I mean, yeah, exactly.
Auburn alum, thank you for the $5. I owned 2 Integras, both 88s. I'm a Gen Xer. The Integra was not an awesome sports car when I owned them in college. I love them though. You see, exactly.
Yeah.
You heard from an Integra owner. They weren't amazingly fast cars. They weren't all Integra Type Rs. They were regular cars.
That's what I said, I think, in the video. So I will counter that argument with another argument. Okay. So the big thing is that, like Jonathan said, well, keep in mind that the new Integra makes more horsepower than the Type R did in 1997. And, this is the Honda argument forever, right? Like, they've never been big on power. So after, and I had this argument with Mazda too when the Miata came out, the ND. I'm like, dude, how can your 2-liter, whatever it was, the 2-liter only make like 150 something horsepower after 25 years? We had cars making 200 horsepower, 4-poppers in 1998. And how, after all this time, can't you have a 4-cylinder that makes more power, that's better?
Emissions.
Yeah, but that's the thing. So Acura's argument too is like, dude, you had amazing engines 20 years ago, and now we have to settle with a 200 horsepower, like 200-pound torque 4-cylinder. It makes more power, but it's not better. So that's the counter argument,
Anyway,
I mean, whatever. What do I know?
The Washer Nerd for $5. What should I replace my mom's 2008 Pilot with 230,000 miles? I'm thinking Forester, RAV4 Hybrid, or CX-5. Budget's around 24 to 25,000.
A CX-5 is going to be the closest thing to that. The Forester is going to feel like if you're going to get a used one, my problem with the Forester is not that it's not good. It's just kind of like it feels like a tin can. It's very like it's great in the fact that it feels old, but it has a lack of refinement to it compared to the CX-5. And what was the other
The RAV4 Hybrid.
The RAV4 Hybrid is a really good choice because
it's also bigger.
Yeah, and it does everything really well, but it's just boring. Not to say the CX-5 is not, but
or the Pilot is not exactly.
The Pilot is, yeah, that's true. The Pilot is not exciting either. So
just know if you buy a RAV4 Hybrid,
good luck trying to find one.
Well, good luck trying to find one cheap. It probably ain't happening. And around 100. What did S2K Fast say to us? It's like 150,000 miles. You need a new battery pack.
Yeah. It depends on your climate, but yeah, typically 150,000 miles is where you're doing battery. It loses so much efficiency that you start to have problems, and that's the pack replacement. And depending on the car, the price goes up. But I think, what did he say? Usually it's $4 to $5 grand for a pack.
But it might get cheaper in the future.
Yeah, so right. I mean, yeah, who knows?
Lazy Pie for $5 Canadian. Thank you. I absolutely love your guys' work. Just bought a E82 128i recently. Pray for me that it won't bankrupt me. Well, good luck.
Yeah. Just be smart and keep up with it. I mean, like I was thinking about that. I saw a CRV, a 97 or 98 CRV on the road. And I forgot what car I was in. I was driving next to it. It was at night, and I got alongside it at a light, and it merged into one lane. I'm like, I got to get ahead of this guy because it looks like, ancient Honda. This guy's probably going to go 10 under the speed limit. Wheel spin, like obliterated. And it was a manual CRV,
really?
all-wheel drive, like an EX all-wheel drive, green. It was like perfect. The car's probably like worth $8 grand. So I looked it up today, and there's not a lot of them in a manual, obviously, from that era. And I'm like, man, it's such a cool car. And of course, they're like $5,000, but they have 1 million miles on them. I'm like, what would it be like buying one of those? And I thought, okay, you have to understand, look, you're going to probably have to do, ball joints. You're going to have to probably do wheel bearings and exhaust and all the bullshit maintenance. So my point is, you get something like that, plan ahead, think about the common things that you're going to have to set aside money for. And then once you know that, you won't have the fatigue or stress worrying about it.
I wanted to make sure we answer questions in the non-paid comments as well. Where is the Murano Cross Cabriolet? Well, I will tell the story we told Toyota reps. When we were doing the Nissan Z video, we were in the Nissan Z museum where we got access, and they told us how the Murano Cross Cabriolet was built. And we asked them, not wholeheartedly, but I asked them if we could borrow their Cross Cabriolet. And he's like, what kind of video are you going to make? I'm like, well, not a video you're going to like.
Not a PR-friendly video.
So the likelihood of doing that video is highly unlikely.
It's going to be really hard. Like I can't talk about the plan that we had. And I mean, it's like basically vaporware, but I think that it would be possible. You just need some people that would be willing to give these cars up, because there would be a 3-way shootout with these. And I don't see the owners of these cars specifically having a big sense of humor about them, nor would they be okay with us taking it to a track.
I can tell you for a fact, owners take their cars very seriously. For the 5 people out there who watched our BMW 360 video, the owner of that car, Dan, who's very, very nice.
BMW 360?
No, the Ferrari.
You said BMW.
Oh, sorry, BMW. We did a
Ferrari
360 video that was done seriously, but not. Obviously, no one really cares about a 20-year-old Ferrari. But the owners still care.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, were people mad? Like, what do you mean the interior's bad? Well, it's dry rotting.
Yeah, I mean, like the dash warpage, the shrinkage of the leather and the
rubber,
the plastics, all that stuff, typical stuff with Ferrari, or like on the 458 where the rubberized coating was,
sticky.
liquid, basically coming apart. This is shit from an outside perspective.
That you should have a sense of humor about.
I mean, to me, because I don't own the car, right? One, I don't think a Ferrari should have a like leather shrinkage and plastic warping when a 35-year-old Toyota, you can leave it out in the sun and the dash doesn't like come apart, so when you're paying $150,000 for a supercar, to me, that's kind of, it's a big deal. Now, obviously it's funny at the same time, but the owner's like, no, that's not cool. So
the owner who gave us the car thought it was funny, but the owners of the car.
owners of the car, yeah, were a little offended by the fact. But I mean, it's cars, man. It's not personal. Like some of these things, like eventually, and I said this on previous live streams, if I can't have fun with some of this stuff, like I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the problem.
That was probably some of the most fun we've had doing a drive segment.
Well, I mean, it looked a lot more fun in the
was,
video
yeah.
than what the actual procedure was going through it. Like everything, there's always no time to do this stuff, but it's hard when you're straddling this line of trying to maintain a really good brand image with manufacturers to get access to not just the cars, but the people. That you can't cross too many boundaries and lines and have a decent relationship with people, because then you just look like an asshole. So, I have to pick and choose when to be silly, when to be funny. And
that was an easy one. The car's 20 years old.
Exactly. You're not going to really make anybody mad.
Aka Peaks, thank you for the $20 towards Arby's, Mark.
I'm going right after this at like 3 a.m.
RQ 1993 for $5.84. Mark, what cars are left in the market that are newer/new that still have that connectedness you talk about? 2 doors or 4 doors, excluding Porsche?
Well, recently, and we've already talked about this, the Elantra N was one of those few.
Lotus.
The Lotus is one of them, but that's not a normal car.
Miata kind of feels connected. You can feel it moving around.
Yeah, Miata has a lot of movement. The Miata really comes alive when you do suspension, because it gets rid of that, like, the body roll thing that's there on purpose. I'm trying to think of anything else.
The GR86, as someone who owns it,
yeah,
it feels connected, but it doesn't. I feel like the steering's kind of dead.
The old 86 felt more connected than the new one.
But it's a worse car than the new one.
It is, well, the engine, right? I mean, it really, you put the new engine in the old car and it solves all that. I mean, so personally, whatever improvements they made to me are like, I don't really care about that as much. But yeah, I mean, there's not too many cars left that have a real, I guess, what's the other pile that we drove? The GT350R had a pretty good connection to it for being a Mustang.
That car's amazing.
The ZR1 1LE had a ton of connectivity to it. I know you don't remember, but it was a combination of what they did with the suspension. The way that car was set up was very, very rigid and stiff, and like you felt everything that was going on.
The C6s are pretty connected. The steering isn't that great. My C7, old Corvettes.
Oh yeah, but you're talking about new cars, right?
Oh well, C7. That's my car isn't that connected. You just can feel what it's doing.
Yeah.
The steering's dead, and the shifter you hate. You hate the gearbox.
Yeah, Jack's got an aftermarket shifter in his Grand Sport, and I had to drive it one day, and I got to the shop and we were having an argument about the shifter feel, and we had the Gen 1 NSX in the shop, and Jack's like, oh, I love that gear. I actually think the NSX gearbox is better than the S2000. And it offended me because Jack didn't grow up with shifters that had a mechanical linkage right into transmission, right? So the NSX is a cable shifter. The C7 that I just got out of is a cable shifter, but he's got like a shift kit in there that feels
from
like
MGW.
It's like,
yeah.
It literally is. Why do I need 50 pounds of force to put it in gear? Like, my concept is a mechanical feel should be like wrist action, like click, where you shouldn't have to shotgun blast a cable.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's
the alternative was what the original shifter was, and it was even worse.
It was worse. But my point is, it depends on what cars you came out of. So if you grew up with all these sloppy ass cable shifters and you get a shift kit where it's just an assembly that's making it feel stiff, you're like, oh wow, this is amazing. So there's a new definition of what actually is connected. To most people, they're like, oh my God, this shifter is amazing because I have to put all my force in it to move a lever. Whereas I'm like, it's basically synthetic. It's fake.
Yeah.
It's fake. But anyway, those, back to the topic, there's not a lot of connected cars left.
Eric Nefron GFR, thank you for the $10. Should we buy or lease new EVs? Seems to me like leasing makes more sense while tech is in flux. Lease.
Yeah.
It's a beta product. You are buying a beta product.
Yeah, 100%.
It's the same reason why no one wants an iPhone from 10 years ago.
Yeah, right.
HKC for...
I'm sorry. Nobody wants an Android phone from 10 years ago, because I'm sure people would still buy a 10-year-old iPhone.
A 20-year-old iPhone.
There's not a 20-year-old iPhone. It came out like 2000.
Whatever. A very old cell phone.
Jesus, can you get your tech right?
Yeah, I know.
Steve Jobs would not be happy with what you're talking about.
My Lord and Savior of the white cable. HKC law firm for $10. RS6 or M5 comp, or sell more stocks and grab a new 911 Targa GTS? You answer that
What was
one.
the first one? The first car?
RS6, the wagon that.
Oh yeah. I'd take the RS6 over the M5 comp because I thought the M5 comp was rubbish.
Yeah, it wasn't a very good car.
It's just another one of those cars. It's a missile. Then there's nothing else happening with it. Which I guess if that's what you want, you don't want to feel anything and you just want to go fast, then the M5 is great, actually.
But I don't like and I'm Mr. BMW, and I don't like the new M5. I was very underwhelmed.
Yeah, that was one of the big. If you want to ask what are the biggest disappointments of the past 5 years,
M5
it was the
comp.
new M5. Yep.
We are doing an M5 CS video, and
Everybody says that car's amazing. So
I'm hoping it's as good as they say it is.
Well, they would have had to done some serious work to that.
The suspension geometry has been changed, different dampers, different calibration, blah blah. Who knows? It could be good.
It's rear wheel drive only, or is
no, I think it's all wheel drive,
and it has the disconnecting still. Okay.
Spiffy Acorn. Or should he just buy a 911? It's a way different car. If you can afford the 911, the 911's a better car.
Which 911?
GTS.
Oh, that's
a badass car. Get it with a manual. I don't care what Johnny Lieberman says. Manual's more fun, isn't it?
Yes. In that car.
Yeah.
Right.
Spiffy Acorn for $10. Would you be willing to make a Mark 1 TT or Mark 2 TTRS video? I believe the Mark 1s are bargains for what they are, and they're good and are good examples of future collectibles.
I do TTRS. I mean, I don't think I could.
I don't think we could do a original TT, but a TTRS video. Oh, and how was driving in Europe? Well, I found out not the hard way, but Italy has very small roads, very narrow roads, and the DBX is very wide. And Italians have different definitions of what lanes are than I have. So I'm rolling around in a $250,000 SUV in a country I don't know, and I'm having to drive it in an exuberant fashion on camera. And there are semis in my lane while I'm trying to film this in Italy. So anyway, it was an exciting experience. Italians are nice people, though, when they don't want to kill me while I drive around. But that's the other thing that made me feel like a huge asshole. So not all of Sardinia is wealthy. I'm driving around in a car that's probably more money than the whole village is worth.
Yeah.
Anyway. Long story short,
it's one of the weird things about doing this, and we have. I'm doing a vintage Porsche video. We went to Hawaii to drive all these vintage Porsches, and the concept of this trip was to drive the old vintage car and then drive the new equivalent back to back, so we could somewhat discuss what it was like then versus now, and how, of course, the marketing part is how Porsche has the DNA from the old cars into the new one, which, when you get out of these cars, there's like no commonality between them. I mean, really, mechanically, they're so different and so far removed in the era. But like we're driving around Hawaii.
356 out of the museum, that's probably worth $500,000.
Yeah, and you're going through these areas where people are struggling, right? And I mean, and then we're talking about like your DBX thing, right? It's this weird thing with these cars that you feel almost like guilty about when you get to this level. It's the optics of like, I guess that's the thing with cars, like any product, right? You start to think about what they really are, and you get to these expensive cars, and you're lucky to even be talking about them or considering them or driving them, and you got to kind of be humble about that they're very expensive, and in many cases you don't need them. So I felt this sense of guilt oftentimes when we drive these hyper expensive cars around, like, and people look at you like, what the fuck?
I will say the 356, as we're going to talk about in the video, did make me forget about all of that pretty quickly.
No, you're right. Yeah. And that's the other part, is when cars actually take you out of it and you no longer care.
It was pure happiness.
But the 356, though, I think normal people like look at that car and it makes them smile. Like, it is a special thing.
Just not a DBX.
Yeah, it doesn't have the rolling like
I'm a penis.
I'm a dickhead type thing going about it. It's just cool. I don't know. Maybe it's just a mindset thing.
Ed Starr, once again, thank you for the $100 you gave earlier. I will read his comment. The cut crystal controls in some BMW models look tacky but cost extra. Enjoy the free light show on sunny days. Do you have the crystal controls?
Yeah, so they didn't really overdo it. So they have two crystal
on the X7.
On the X7, and this is what kind of like kicked it off. So the volume control knob, which is like this like a dime that has some like glass cut in it, and the shifter, like much like the shit in the Volvo, is a piece of glass that feels like plastic. And a lot of people complain that the sunlight hits it and blinds you. And I guess in my seating position and the fact that my windows are tinted, I've never had the reflection through the glass shifter in my eyes. But now BMW on like the iX, all the door controls, they went to like a Mercedes style to move the seats on the door, and that's all glass now. So I could see light hitting that more aggressively.
The iX has to be one of the ugliest cars I think I've ever seen.
I think you're gonna in 5 years you're gonna look at that and it's gonna look normal. Like people said the X7 looked
No,
ugly.
the X7 looks normal now. After you look at the M4,
Right, well,
you're like, oh, that's a good looking
I have
car.
the black shit
Yeah.
on it, so all the chrome's gone, so it almost like looks normal. But grills have gotten so big, and like the exaggerated
The new
badges.
7 Series,
Dude, the 7 Series, I will tell you, that has got to be
the worst thing
that
ever.
thing is so. It's just there's no style to it. It's just like somebody drew some fucking lines on a piece of paper and like squared it off. It almost reminds me of how bad some of the 80s cars looked. You know, like the cake, like the longer, like Chryslers and all those piles.
Yeah, wow.
Obviously it's better than that, but it's like these proportions are so just like screwed up.
I will say though, some of the 80s cars that rely too heavily on technology, like the Aston Martin Lagonda.
Oh God.
I think it's like the part of me that has a really bad taste is like, that's a baller car.
Yeah. 100%.
The iX or whatever, the i7 will not do that.
I think it's. I will say this, okay? One of the big problems BMW had is they all look the same. For a long time, like 3, 5, 7 series, all the shit, they were just like, you can tell BMW from a mile away. They were very like almost cardboard, and then everybody was copying them. They were always being copied. So once they got over copied, now I feel like they're at the place in their design.
They're making them so ugly, nobody's going to copy them.
They're going to an extreme. Like they're doing something that nobody else is doing. And it's so extreme that it has the opposite effect of like basically throwing out the design book, doing something completely different so they have a brand identity again. And I think it's so weird that you're going to see companies like Hyundai, Kia, probably even the other luxury brands starting to emulate the weirdness.
Well, Hyundai will copy anybody because they have no heritage.
Yeah, no, 100%.
They heritage of design.
They don't have their own brand identity. They don't.
Jonathan P., and he is asking the most serious of questions, and he donated $5. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, sir.
Buick Encore or Ford EcoSport?
Oh.
He explained, though, there's backstory.
Okay.
My wife's boyfriend has an Explorer, and he said I should go with a Ford. Now, your wife's boyfriend sounds like a wise man, but the Buick Encore, because of our video,
the Encore or the GX, because they're two different things.
Oh shit! He just said Buick Encore. We didn't do a video on that.
So the regular Encore was the pile that's on the tracks.
Yes.
The one that we had was the premium one.
And if anyone ever wants to enjoy themselves, that video was pretty premium that we did.
Yeah, just stop what you're doing after you watch this video and then watch another, like, was it 12 minutes or was that 8 minutes?
8 minutes.
Okay.
Or something.
Yeah, the Encore, just get an Encore, man. Get the shitty one and just phone it in.
I showed Brian Silvestri. Is that
yeah.
Who I finally met. He's at Road and Track.
You met him like 3 times.
But I have no memory. I'm like a goldfish. But I met Brian, and we had a moment. I told him the next time I see him at an event, I'm going to greet him like Ryan Gosling in The Notebook.
Oh, where you're just going to jump into his arms?
Exactly.
Or is he going to jump in yours?
Whatever works. Or he could Dirty Dancing me, where he runs up to me.
Oh, wait a second. No.
That was Dirty Dancing.
Dirty Dancing.
Yeah, anyway.
There was no jumping in arms, and there was the lake scene.
They meet one another in the rain.
No, they were.
I know that's your favorite movie,
they were
Mark.
in the water. I think they were in the lake and it started raining.
But anyway, we'll have a romantic moment. But he enjoyed the Chevy Trax video, and he's a man of taste.
Did we do a Chevy Trax video?
Sorry, the Encore GX.
This is going down.
Yeah, this conversation's not going well. Raphael for $10. I want to know all the technical stuff. That's why I'm supporting my favorite car review channel. Raphael, thank you very much.
Thank you, Raphael. And obviously, I don't have to preach to the choir here, but when I look at these videos, should I tell them about the Toyota video? How much it made?
Yeah, it was like $500.
Let me tell you the updated numbers. So like the 99.9% of these videos we're not getting paid to do, right? So these are things that we chase or we're talking about doing, and I want to do them. almost always. So in this case, obviously, I wanted to do the Toyota like infotainment and all that stuff.
And I worked my little businessman heart off pitching them and getting the right people involved.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with it, but I just want to put this out there for perspective. If you like these long form technical videos that we're doing where they take a month to do, like Patreon is critical. Or now there's a thing when we do videos, there's a thanks thing at the bottom that it was in beta forever. So you can actually thank the video. It's much like Super Chat where you can thank and pay whatever, like $1. I don't even know what it is. So if you like these, you're going to have to start supporting it on Patreon because the money is evaporating. So that Toyota video that we did, that we spent
a month on,
and then I spent over about 3 months tinkering with over the course, and then finally the edit took, I think, like a week. At the last part of it took a week. That made $526.
Hell yeah.
Now think about that. Let's just say it was a month total. Like
no, it's like cents an
between
hour.
the two of us, right?
Yeah.
So that's 40 hours, 80 hours a week in payroll for 4 weeks to make $526. So it's very apparent after a while, like a lot of these enthusiast cars don't also some of these big projects. Some of them do extremely well. We're talking maybe like
tens of thousands.
Yeah. Well, no, that's hyper rare. The only video that made like tens of thousands was the LFA video, and then my worst cars.
Car,
yeah, like the 10 like worst gimmick video or whatever made like $10,000. But on average, a video is like
couple grand,
yeah, if that's pushing it. So like keeping that in perspective, the sustainability of this to do public videos where you're doing this and relying on like ad revenue, it's hard.
We're probably sooner or later gonna have to do corporate sponsors for some of these videos.
Yeah, and I think we've been talking about ways to make this sustainable, and that's my fault. Like I have to think about this stuff, but that Patreon is definitely going to become more of a push because it's essentially going to subsidize these big videos that are at a huge loss. Almost every big video we do, there's a
small return, if not no return.
No, there's no return. Yeah. Like every video we've done recently, I've lost money on. Like, and I'm not talking about like a couple $100.
No, like the Z video lost money.
Yeah, it lost like thousands. So, from a business perspective, it's doesn't make you feel good. And I know I've talked about this before, and it's some of the inside shit about making these videos. And people bang on Motortrend. Remember when they went behind a paywall?
But it makes sense.
That was a different case, but they ran into the same issue. They had huge budgets, too many headcount. They were spending $20,000 a video to maybe make like $5,000 back, and they're like, we can't continue to do this. But they just didn't talk about it, right? They weren't good about explaining how it worked. And they weren't very smart about scaling back. Like, you don't need 10 people to make a car video. I'm sorry. Yes, it makes it better when you have a crew, but
those videos never made their money back.
No, they didn't. But they were also subsidized by Google at the start, so they had free money.
Yeah,
initially, Google gave them free money to make videos to grow the platform, and when that went away, it was like, well, how do we keep making $20,000 videos that lose money? And the answer was they stopped and they went behind a paywall.
Then it killed the channel.
So you have to be hyper creative, hyper flexible. You have to have a lot of spare time, which we work 7 days a week. So point is, I'm not begging for it, but if you want to become a Patreon and you want to support it and you believe in this stuff, it's going to become very, very important this year to keep it going. And then on the back end, we're going to have to continue to get creative with like trying to get paid outside of this, which we're already doing.
We do vendor work here.
Yeah. It's going to happen. I'm just saying the public facing videos to keep it up, it's going to be tough.
James Adler for $20. You both seem very impressed with the Elantra N. Enough to make me consider it as a daily driver instead of he's coming out of a Fiesta ST, it sounds like. Would I still get the same joy of driving?
Out of a Fiesta ST?
No, Elantra N. He's replacing his Fiesta ST.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Like, so coming out of Fiesta ST. So Focus ST, I think they're more equivalent. The Fiesta is so tiny. That thing is like a toy.
And it's very tail happy.
It's very tail happy. It's like real flickety, like real quick to respond. The Elantra N feels much more substantial than that, but it does have a lot of the spirit of like, it's kind of edgy.
And the rear end will move.
Yes. Yeah. So I think you'd like it. It's again, if you're okay with the bigger size and the more substantial feel to the car, then you're going to like it.
Hi Chew for $20. Greetings from Schaumburg. Any tips on hunting for a specific Toyota, given how the allocation system works? Well, I can tell you, I have no idea. I got hooked up with Toyota St. Charles. They're a very good dealer, but they only have so many cars. Apparently, enough of you guys have contacted them that they have sold all of their allocations for sports cars. And you're basically going to have to wait. If I were you and you really wanted something, I would just get on the phone and start calling.
That's the only way to do it now. So it doesn't, and obviously if you work in the car industry, you know this, every brand does something different with allocations. But I can tell you, would you just spray
water in my face?
What an idiot. God, this guy, he's going to ruin my Bob's furniture. Bob's going to get digital CG. Bob's going to kick through the door. Dealerships get certain special car allocations based on sales numbers and performance oftentimes. So like, I don't care where you go. You can go to your local town. If they've already been allocated 3 cars and they've reached their allocation, they're probably not getting another one. So the sad part is you're going to have to start going around the whole United States like you would have to do for some of these specialty cars, like the Porsche game that you have to play. You're going to have to start doing with these normal cars, and it sucks. I've done it before. I did it before on 2 cars. I had to do it on the Veloster when I bought it, and the 86, I had to do it when it first came out in 2013. And I made that mistake. I didn't understand how it worked. And I got on an allocation list at 2 dealerships that were never even allocated the car. They just made promises that they would get one eventually. And they probably would if I would have waited a year. But I wound up having to go out of state on the 86 and the Veloster. I just had to call locally to like 20 different dealerships, and I finally found one.
Yeah,
And that was before MSRP bullshit. Well, I guess there was a markup, but it's not like it was now.
It really takes the piss out of trying to.
It does. It ruins the whole experience. Like, I don't care how bad you want something. When you're having to go and call out of state and finding a dealership that's not gonna that's the other thing too, is you might get a dealership that says you can get an allocation and they'll tell you they'll give you a price. And then you go in and then they start fucking you around when you go out of state.
And the worst part about it is they have you sell the cars to someone else.
Right. Exactly. You have literally no leverage. So, I mean, good luck.
And if the economy crashes, it won't matter because all the people who are struggling to buy these cars will be broke.
Yeah.
Only the rich people will be able to buy them.
Right. Maybe. Well, I guess the people that have jobs that are not affected by it.
Yeah, fair enough. James B, no question, just appreciate you guys. Thanks, James, for the $5.
Thanks, James. That's too easy.
Javier for $5. Thank you. HN Civic Si review when? Such an affordable and great enthusiast car. We're going to one-up that. We're going to be getting a Mugen variant shipped from Japan to us to do a video on the 8th gen. It's like the best version of the 8th gen you can get. I owned an 8th gen briefly as a winter beater, an SI, and I agree, it's a lot of fun. You agree? For whatever they're worth, it's a good car, like 10 grand or something.
Yeah, after experiencing it, I like the car a lot. I just hate the interior. I hate the dashboard. Like, I know what they were doing with it, but it's like it makes the car feel so like weird. But the driving character, because the engine's hilarious.
Yeah.
Right. If you have the right trans fluid in there, or you had the 3rd gear TSB done, the gearbox is decent. But the engine is just hilarious.
Particularly when you put an intake on it that loses horsepower.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah, definitely do that because it's so loud that it ramps up the entertainment value so much. Yeah. But yeah, for a cheap car, honestly, like if you know what to keep up on it, I mean, it's one of those that lasts forever.
You don't have the UV fading paint.
Yeah, well, yeah, you get the paint corrected and wrapped.
Make way for the Lion for $5. Thank you. My SG logo T-shirt is heavenly. Have you considered extending the line to other products? Beanies, boxer briefs, snuggies, car interiors, cargo shorts.
Yeah, it's all in the works. I'm going to start with intimates because like the female demographic is exploding right now.
Yeah, we went from 0.8 to 0.9 on a recent video.
We gained like 2 female subscribers. So there's been a huge push towards like, you know, making sure that we're covering our new demographic. And let me just tell you, every single intimate that is produced.
All right, Mark, I'm moving on from this.
Yeah.
Hey, could we get some corporate sponsors to pay for this?
No, yeah. Honestly, with the merch thing, if not that anybody cares about it, even the T-shirt stuff, like I haven't done another batch because I still haven't paid off the last batch that we did. So I'm waiting for the money to recover to kind of
making a good T-shirt that's ethically sourced and giving it some of the money to charity and Chicago Auto Pros.
Yeah, it's gone. You have
it is not a profitable venture. We are just doing it for you guys.
Yeah, I wanted to do it right. Now I know what that costs to do it right. So yeah, once we make up the money and I pay off what I lost on the Z video and the Toyota video and like all those others, I'll redo another batch of shirts because it's winds up being 6,000 to order the shirts, and then it takes about 3 months to get that back and the profit. So, and that's only usually about 250 to no, I'm sorry, the last batch was 270 shirts, so it's a lot.
Danny, thank you for the $10 donation. You two are the best. Thanks for the great work. Well, thank you, Danny. Hazel Green gave us $10. Thank you, Hazel Green.
Thank you. Thank you for everything.
And Danny, thank you as well. R. London for $10. Any chance you guys will review a BMW M550i? Curious to hear your thoughts on that car. We did a video on it. We never released it because it wasn't that great. Not the car.
Oh, that was Elizabeth's car?
Yeah, it was Elizabeth's car. Elizabeth was really kind to give us the car, and so we released an interview with her instead. The car's great, man. I think in many ways it's better than the new M5.
I thought so too. After driving it, so yeah, that I think that's why getting in the M5, you expect more for the price, because you could get an M550i for what is it, like
mid 80s?
Mid 80s.
Loaded.
In the V8, the audio system, that car is really, really good for what it is, a pure luxury tourer with a great engine and transmission. So I think I said this before, I'd rather have that than the M5, and I'm pretty sure I said that in the M5 video as well.
And I agree with you. As much as it pains me, the M550i makes more sense. Most people with M5s just putt around.
I mean, it's got to be one of the best luxury cars that has some balls to it. You know what I mean?
Steve for $20. Thank you, Steve, for the $20. I have an Amira pre-order. What's the time frame for review? Also, have you guys seen the most recent reviews and thoughts? I'll ask you about your thoughts on it, because I told you basically complaints are it's too soft and not, the motor isn't all that great. I am working very hard to do a pretty special Amira video. I can't guarantee it'll happen, but it sounds like it will. What are your thoughts? I know you haven't watched all the videos, but the summary is that it's soft.
I mean, this is the part where you want to balance what you're going to say, because obviously we're working to get the car. So if I say what I want to say, it's probably not the best thing. I do think my perception of what they're doing is the Amira is a launch car, right? They're just getting it out. It's new factory, new manufacturing process, all of that. They're sorting that out. And that's what these first 2 model years are. So it will be a step backwards from the Evora GT in terms of performance. So if you're okay with you're getting a GT-ish car that doesn't have the hard edge of the Evora GT, then you're going to be okay with it. But I think it's going to probably be worse in terms of performance, but it may be more luxurious and better as a daily driver, less trade-offs of because the Evora GT was a good car, but it's not something you
the interior was a crap can.
Yeah, it wasn't something you wanted to spend a lot of time in. So they fixed that, but the outright numbers game, I think they would be really careful not to compare it to an Evora GT. So know that going in, know it's a first new Lotus car, and if you're okay with that, then.
So we haven't done all of our interviews yet with Lotus. One of the questions we're going to ask them, and we're going to put it in the video, is the original Evora was botched at launch. It was botched bad.
Right.
That's my concern for this car, and Lotus hasn't answered those questions yet. And when they answer them, I'm going to try to put them in the video. But I think that will dictate a lot about how I feel about the Amira.
I mean, looking at it,
it looks beautiful.
It's a really just a timeless look. I mean, it's everything that you want from a modern sports car. It's got that. It's kind of got what the Alpha 4C was trying to do, but actually being a Lotus and being more cohesive. It's got a much better interior. Now, granted, how is that going to hold up? Right. I think that's always the question with Lotus products. How is that going to age and how is it going to work? And then the big question, the huge question about Lotus, and is just dealer network, right? If you live next to a dealer and you have like actually the technicians there that know about it and like are good with it, and the car's not going to be sitting there for a month waiting for parts. Those are the real world questions about getting a car like that until it's really spun up. I'm glad they're making it for the price that they are. I just don't know how to feel about it yet.
1 dot for that mic pack.
Don't ever touch that again. I'll switch batteries soon. Right. Once it starts flashing, I'll switch them. Because I'm one bar on both.
All right. I just don't want to lose audio for these kind gentlemen.
I've been keeping an eye on it.
All right. Well, hopefully that answers your question. David McCarthy, thank you for your $10 donation. Chris, just so this thing doesn't go till, or Chin Face doesn't go till 11 p.m., we're going to stop taking new questions around, say, like 9:30. Does that work?
Yeah,
Mark?
yeah. We'll do a hard cutoff for questions at 9:30.
We will answer every question that you've asked so far.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to probably, what time do you want to try to kill this? At 10?
No, 10-ish, 10:30.
Okay, all
right. David, thank you for the $10. Eli for $5. Thank you for that. Thoughts on the GMW body cars? I just bought a Monte Carlo SS. Hopefully it was the Dominator that you bought, or Eliminator. What was it called? The Dominator?
I don't know what the body is. That the generation he's talking about?
That's the one that's rotting out front of our shop. That generation, 2002.
What body was it? Oh, did he put the title? The
W body? Yeah, he has the 2002.
Oh, okay. All right.
What are your thoughts, Mark?
So
you don't have to be nice.
I think like I worked with a guy. This is back when I had my Civic, so that's not really fair. I worked with a guy in IT, and he just got a brand new Monte Carlo SS, and that thing. I mean, it's so weird because in some ways it was cool, but in most ways
they were front wheel drive too, weren't they?
Yeah.
Oh man, and they're V8s.
No, well, yeah, no, were they, or were they supercharged?
The GXP was a V8, so that had to be V8. Look it up on your phone.
I don't even want to. I should know more about it, but the straight answer is I always really didn't like that car. I was stuck in it with this dude all the time, and we'd make, because we worked third shift, so we'd make these like late night 7-Eleven runs where he would get these pizza puffs and he'd be eating it while he was driving. The shit would be on his belly. The dude was like huge. So that was one of the things. I'm like, man, you should get an Accord. Of course, Mr. Honda boy. And I'm like, man, just get an Accord. Don't get that thing. He's like, no, man, it's big. It's big.
It did have a V8.
It did?
Yeah, Chin just answered.
All right, well, he didn't have a V8. So if you have a V8, then it's probably way better. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to be like, oh, that thing's a total piece of shit. But the ones I was in was a piece of shit. So
Muffin for $20. I've been lusting after tiny Muffin. Thank you for the $20. Been lusting after tiny, slow Japanese cars for a couple years. I believe the last Q&A you mentioned about you were doing K cars. We are still doing K cars, just about what time we can do them.
Yeah, it's on the list, and it's going to be amazing. It's just I need the time to do it, and right now we don't.
But it will happen.
Yeah, just go ahead.
All right. Mark's just swapping one of the batteries for the mic packs. Varge, thank you for your $3.50. I bought a GT350. Am I worthy now? Yes, you are worthy. Hopefully your motor survives. Is that my mic pack or yours? It's yours. TWIDMNN for $5. When will you be coming out with some more SG branded undies? Well, hopefully soon once the finances work out for that. Mark, tap your mic. Yeah, I think people can hear you.
Yeah, I can see it over here. Yeah, sorry about blasting your ears. Yeah, so the merch thing, I wanted to do more merch, but how complicated it is to actually do something.
Right.
Like Jack said, that was one of my big concerns doing it. I wanted something American made by like the materials made in the U.S.
Undies.
And that's even harder.
All right.
And it's going to be harder. I know he's not serious. I would love to do underwear just as a joke, but I'm sure it would cost so much money. And you know me, once I get into it, like the novelty wears off and it would be funny. And then I'd get into the nitty gritty of like actually wanting to design them myself. And I'd be sitting here and
you could always talk to Matt Farah. He has some sack underwear that he could help you sell.
Oh, but that he doesn't make it himself.
Oh, he should though.
Yeah, no. I see. I need to go that route and talk about ball sacks all the. Oh man, it feels so good.
Cross Slow One thank you for your $50 donation. Hopefully you didn't ask a question attached to that because we don't have it, or I was not told it. But thank you for your $50 donation. You're the best.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. No, honestly, everybody that's giving to be here. Not only just you don't obviously if you're not giving, just showing up. You know,
shooting the
commenting
shit with your friends in the comments.
This is the closest you can get to like hanging out in the living rooms with somebody.
Nintendo USA for $20. I also live in Chicago, where the elevation is flat and twisty roads are non-existent. I struggle and often feel unsatiated when coming back from a drive. Do you guys find joy in driving around in the area? How do you do it? I just go to the track now at this point.
Yeah, sadly, I before I would just go on long drives and just kind of get lost. And there are some roads, like some people drive out to Galena. There's some roads out by us, but when I say some,
you have like 8, basically where we drive on camera. You have like 8 turns.
Yeah. So if you go out there and you drive around for like 25 minutes, and by the time you get back, you're like, oh man, I'm just tired from driving, period, not from like the fun of it. So yeah, for me, I have to go to the track to even remotely feel anything anymore.
FK8, we just answered that question about the M550i. If you can get one, you have one of the warranty, you'll probably really like it. SK, thank you for your $10 Canadian. Which would you recommend? F80 M3, G29 Z4 M40, Super Manual, or the new Z? Within 2 years, no track use, just love cruising back roads, mountains, and long trips.
Long trips, well, you know how I feel about that. I keep saying this. The F80 M3 is pretty amazing.
It does everything well.
It does. It's got the same BMW problems that I complained about earlier with just like having a layer of disconnect and wanting to go like obliterating sideways for no reason. But it is a complete package. But if you really you want a more driving experience, the Z is probably going to be your best bet. And the Super Manual will just be another iteration of every, like what I was talking about with the BMW, except far less practical. You know, you lose all the good things about the F80 M3 of like practicality with the Supra, because you can't see. The wind buffeting is horrible with the windows down. So food for thought.
VDub fan just bought a 2022 Impreza hatchback sport with a manual a couple months ago. What are your guys' opinions?
Wait a second. You said Impreza. Are you one of the tuners now?
Yeah.
I always see this like, oh man, I got Impreza, man. Sounds like you're saying pretzels.
That sounds like I have a disability.
What disability would that be, Jack?
I'm driving a Subaru.
No, that's not a disability.
I have one in the driveway despite the Toyota badge.
Oh, that's true. You do. I mean, I think there's some weird parts about like the Subarus, like the Impreza or Impreza. I think they're one of the coolest cars in terms of like actually being usable in bad climates.
Well, even the Crosstrek's actually not a bad little
car.
Yeah,
for sure. It's like it's got that charm. There's something about them. At the same time, there's this like element
shitbox.
Yeah, it's got that. It lacks a lot of refinement, but that's also its charm to me.
It's weird to me that the Corolla and the Civic both moved up market so much in a lot of their fields. Like the Corolla, it's got a lot of that economy car, like buzzy, rattly 4-cylinder to it, but they've managed to make it feel more like a Camry. Like the Civic feels like an Accord.
Right. But that's always been the case, and people complain about that. Like, why can't we have small cars or like kind of like older cars? But that's been the chase since as long as these cars have been created. Every single update has been trying to make the refinement level go up, the improvements of maximizing what the car is and luxury. And now we're at a place where it's like gone too far, and where Subaru has not picked up the game. I think it's just their own. They haven't been able to like get to that point, so their cars have some character because of it.
Yeah, like the WRX, the new one, other than the seats, which I'll say they're average, the rest of the cabin's bad. But that also gives it some of the charm, where it still feels like kind of that old tuner car.
Yeah, pro or con. Like, you want more luxury, you get like that in new Integra, what they're trying to do there, or like the Mazda 3. But the Subaru still has like that 2000s car feel for sure.
Matt B, thank you for the $20. No sugar, just daddy for 25. Could you guys see a video model set more on enthusiast cars, old or new, only work? Trade most crap cars for more viewers. Your guys' review model, I think, would fit so well. Niched like Doug DeMira, but way better. I don't know, man. The videos that make the most money are the videos that are regular people cars.
Yep. So that's the fine print of this. The enthusiast cars don't make money unless it's like some obliterating amount of views. But surprisingly, what you'll find is the enthusiasts are typically like a different generation, right? So you make money by ads. I'm sorry, these videos are paid for by ads. So a lot of people that watch enthusiast car videos don't watch ads.
Or they're a demographic that the ads that are sent
All right, don't make any money.
are not worth any money.
Right. So like a lot of these mainstream car videos, that's why I tell Jack, I'm like, we need to do real cars because the mass public, there's more people that are buying regular cars than enthusiast cars. So I enjoy doing the regular cars that normal people are going to buy because there's some value to try to help people understand what they are.
And the videos doesn't make more money.
And the videos make way more money. It's not about the money either. I find more joy in doing regular cars. I hate some of these enthusiast videos. I think that was my big problem with doing the Ferrari that you did, the 360, is I'm like, why are we doing this? Nobody gives a shit about it. But at the same time, it's far more entertaining to watch. So it's like, okay, you got to have the fun videos for the enthusiast, and you got to have the mainstream videos that are absolute snooze almost to watch and sometimes to make. But we don't have to spend 3 days shooting a shop segment or, spending a week doing research. Like I'm literally right now in the other room with a flatbed scanner scanning in an entire book for the NSX. So I can take a 600, 800 DPI photo, blend it into a video that's going to take me probably 3 days to do. For what? What am I going to make? Like, it's just not worth the time. And as much as I'm passionate about it, sometimes when you get to this place like we are, where you're working 7 days a week on this stuff, like I got to get something back. There's no incentive for it. So
the dude, let me cut you off and move on to the next one. The dude is donating for your washboard abs.
Dude, I know. I got to get those back. I've been working on them lately. But anyway, the regular car videos are really important to me, not just because that I want to help people learn about cars. And if a $25,000, $35,000 car is hyper important to the normal person, not some $60,000 car that, 10,000 people a year buy. You know what I mean? Even though the views could be $300,000 or 300,000 views on a car that nobody buys. It's a very weird place to be with this stuff.
Yeah, I don't think people fully understand that, but at the same time, we have to we're trying to have a healthy mix of both.
Yeah. So I know a lot of inside stuff on this video in terms of how this stuff works, and you're probably bored by that. I just want to explain so you have a better understanding of why you see certain videos, why you're going to see some of these things, because you can't just, the concept of making enthusiast only cars or videos also, and I had this problem with Nissan earlier on, like they would not give us cars because my rep had told me, oh, I thought all you guys did was enthusiast cars. We didn't think you wanted to get a Nissan Sentra, which I didn't really want a Nissan Sentra anyway. But, you start to get a perception as a brand that you don't care about regular cars. And as automotive manufacturers, they care about volume products. Those are what keeps the people employed and making money. And that's how these cars go. So you have to find a balance in it. And I don't just want to cater to like the enthusiast market.
Thank you again, the dude 365, for the $10 donation for Mark's washboard abs.
It's coming soon.
Chris, thank you for the $2. Can you talk about EV conversions? I wouldn't do it. I think that seems like a waste on some of these classic cars.
I don't know. What depends on the car and like how much.
There are like high-end EV conversions. There's a company in the UK doing from like classic Porsches and stuff. And I'm just like, I don't see the point.
I mean, I get it.
It'll make them faster, sure.
I get it. I mean, I get why you'd want to do it. If you have disposable money and you want to have like a car that you really love and that you want to convert it to see what it was like, it would be a fun thing if you had the right people doing it.
I just think half the charm though for a lot of these old cars is the noise.
What if you have 10 air-cooled Porsches?
Well, that's different.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, that's a fair point. But if it's your only car, like if someone EV converted the Mugen ITR we did a video on, be like, get the fuck out of here.
I don't see anybody EV converting their only car.
Well,
I
not
feel like,
their
you know,
only car, but like their
it would be somebody very specific that wanted to do it to see what it was like. I remember one of the first EV converted cars that I didn't get to drive it, but they were doing the Atom.
Yeah.
Like the Atom was getting converted to EV, and the thing was like ridiculously fast. It was already fast. It didn't need it, but it was all it would do is obliterate the tires. It was just like shear them off because there was no weight in the car. So some cars could have a lot of benefit to it, but I don't think it's at the point where it would be worth the money. I agree with you. Let's just put it that way.
Matt B for $50. Thank you, Matt, for the $50. Did I sell out? I traded my power hardtop NC Miata for a 1972 Mercedes 280 SE 4.5 liter V8. I'm hours from the nearest track and live in a pancake flat southern Indiana. Plus, the 280 is family friendly. Do I still have credibility? Hell yeah. 70s Merc? That's pretty badass.
Yeah, I think there's a time and place where, you know, there's not a car doesn't create your identity, right? Like a car doesn't say who you are.
Yeah, but I think it's more from like the joking aside, going from an NC to a 72, like
that's a big change.
But it's probably equally as fun if you live in the middle.
I'm sure. Like that's the point. Like if you live in the middle of nowhere and there's nothing to do, what are you going to do with a Miata? Like a Miata's pure fun is like, I mean, yeah, you can drive it like a dick, but if you're not like turning, it just gets old.
Common question from the like regular questions being asked: are hybrid or hydrogen vehicles a good stopgap?
Hydrogen, because there's no infrastructure. I mean, hydrogen they've been promising that shit for a long time.
Yeah, it's not a solution here in the U.S. There's no infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, you're just creating a new
infrastructure problem.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think they need to. So, like, the current talk is let's fix the problem right now, and that is EV. Whether you like it or not, that's the current generation of alternate cars. So, do the infrastructure for that because that's the next thing, and then you can build out the infrastructure for the next thing. I think you have to have you have to focus in this country. Nobody focuses on one thing. They're all over the place. So fix that. And then I think hydrogen has a huge potential. It's just, I don't know. It's very, very expensive right now to get that done. And I just don't see it happening here.
I think if you're worried about fuel, and Toyota has a very long-term view on things, and that's why every car you're going to see is going to be 4-pop or hybrid here soon from Toyota.
Right.
And for most people, that makes a lot of sense because it'll get you that fuel economy.
Yeah, it is that like hybrids have been the stopgap for a long time, right? I think.
But now everything's hybrid going to be.
Yeah, and by necessity, it almost has to because the fuel economy standards, the fleet averages are going to go up in a big way. The only way to do it is hybridization from a testing perspective, right? Like as long as it passes the certification to meet that fleet average number, it doesn't really matter what it makes in the real world on the street. But I think it's important that you have options. Like right now, I thought about it. I'm like, I wish I had a Sienna hybrid. Like I would hate driving it, but you know, when we go to and from the track, I wouldn't spend $320. You know what I mean? Just in gas. So there's a time and place for every type of car, whether you like it or not. But there's also the long-term effects of some of this shit that the fine print of this technology, I think, is going to come back to bite us. Like current generation internal combustion, that's hyper complicated, like with turbos and all the cooling stuff. You're going to have to do that. When you get turbos and hybrid systems, that's going to be way more expensive. And then a lot of these first gen like battery cars.
These cars are going to be hybrid disposable.
Yeah, hyper disposable. So, I mean, there's no magic answer.
Avery and Austin for $20. Thoughts on the 2014-2015 Z28? Where does it fit in the obtainable enthusiast driver cars segment?
I don't know what they're priced at, but they were incredible when they came out. And then, of course, in American car fashion, they constantly get outdone. So the next gen ZL1 came out and the Z28 was kind of like forgotten about. So I think, honestly, I think it's very relevant if you can get a good deal on it. I'm sure you.
It's a badass car. I hate that generation Camaro, but it's a badass car.
That was a hardcore car.
And apparently, I think Chris Harris had one for a while. Now one of the other hosts on Top Gear bought that car. Oh, really? That's all you need to know.
mean, Harris bought one. I mean, it's clearly probably.
Well, it was that generation where it was still very like hyper capable, and a lot of it was tires back then. You know, like it had.
And you had a 7,000 RPM LS7.
Yeah, you had an engine, tires, and a decent gearbox, and you know that goes back to our old discussion when we started this live stream. Sometimes it's not about the outright speed and straight line acceleration; it's about how engaged you are in the physical experience of driving a car. And the Z28 is a perfect example of engaging a lot of the right feelings, of feeling like you're doing a lot more. You're having fun operating a machine. The machine's not doing everything for you. So the Z28,
I would love to, like, to me, so when we do the C6006 video, assuming it does well, I'd love to get a 15 or 14 Z28. Like, to me, deep down, a part of me regrets not buying a C6006 because I think that car is so cool.
Yeah.
That motor is so cool.
Well,
you and I like.
maybe it'll be a car that I'll be surprised by. You know, I've started to turn off my brain to a lot of these things because we're just so maxed out with this stuff. I like actually not knowing stuff about cars anymore, and then just getting into them and driving them for real, like a normal person.
And then learning about them later.
Yeah, learning about them later because I'm engaged in them. Like, wow, this is really cool. Now I want to learn about it versus being forced to like jam all this shit in without experiencing it. It takes a lot of the fun out of it.
Calvin Chung for $5. Thank you, Calvin. And hopefully, Avery, that answered your question.
Yeah.
I own a 2013 GS 350. Enough power, luxury, low NVH, all-wheel drive, and reliable. Great car. But just curious, what is something similar in this day and age? ES.
Yeah, ES V6, and I mean that's not like it's not rear-wheel drive. You can't replace that. But or all-wheel. Well, I guess yeah. You'd have to go to the front-wheel drive V6 to feel that. I think that's a better car, the ES, than than the old GS, even though it's not a rear-wheel drive architecture. It does everything better, I think. But it's weird because the GS, and a lot of these Lexus cars, nobody else is like doing anything like it. Probably the closest thing would be maybe like an A5,
Genesis,
like
G80.
G80. G80 for sure, maybe like an A5 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like an Audi equivalent would be very.
But I don't think it'd be as reliable as the Lexus. So ES or maybe like a G80. And the only reason I'm going to say Genesis is the long warranty.
Yeah, for sure.
Alferbach Brackley, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, sir. You're always around. You're like, I think about you at night when I'm cuddling my teddy bear.
Tell me about those business socks, Mr. Jack Business. Well, these business socks, which I don't know what brand they are, they help me conduct my deals.
They're over $50.
Oh, well, they have to be. Nothing touches this body but farm-to-table socks.
Well, nobody talks about my socks.
Because your socks are weak. They aren't neon.
They are like, these things are almost quitters. You want to know what my socks are?
What?
I can tell you what they are.
Are they Hanes socks?
They're American Apparel. I'm sorry, not American Apparel. LA Apparel, because it's U.S. fabric. And the guy has a lot of respect for women too, apparently.
Reasonable Paul.
I don't even know what these. I think these are Adidas. My other ones are Adidas. They're the slip. Are your socks slippery?
What do you mean slippery?
Like when you get on a wood surface, you like face plant?
No, see, the important thing that my socks do is they breathe. They help me conduct business deals. And then when I'm at the gym or I'm standing by you with all that heat you generate, I don't pit out like I do with my armpits.
Yeah, I'm starting to pit out here. I mean, I'm not as bad as you. I mean, like...
Dude, I sweat like an ape.
I sweat. See, I think you sweat instantly. It takes me a while to build up to that level, but when I cross the threshold, then I'm like pure liquid.
Oh, look at that, dude. That is some serious.
I got to bring up that Kids in the Hall skit for you, the one with the dude who's selling his armpit sweat.
Are you ready to conduct business deals? No. God, this guy when he sweats, I can't remember what car we were in, and we're doing the track segment, and we turn off the AC.
It was the 911 Turbo.
It was. I'm
pretty sure because I think you had a clip where like you were sweating so bad, like the sweat flew off my head and hit you.
Yeah, that's it. He was sweat so hard. It is pouring. If you've ever seen Airplane where the pilot's landing and it's just like pouring water off of its head, that's what he's like. What?
Yeah, my cooling system is like a laptop that goes like from quiet to full bore when it doesn't update and the fan just goes to 100% and you can't stop it. That's for me. Like once the threshold gets crossed, it's gross. I'll tell you one story about like sweating since I'm tired of talking about cars. I was 19 and my significant other was going to Harper at the time, and she was taking a jiu-jitsu class. Don't ask me why. and it was in the gym, like some like back room in the gym. I don't know what it was, a racquetball court where they were doing it with pads. And I was waiting out there. I worked overnight shift, and then I would get done working overnights, and then I would hang out with her while she was going to school. I never slept. So I was bored waiting outside for her class to get done. And these dudes are playing basketball, like college player, like big dudes, like huge. And they're like, hey, man, you want to play? And I'm like, oh, I love basketball. I'll play. And probably 5 minutes in, I realized, whatever I thought I could do, I looked like, I don't even want to say what I looked like, but that was the time where I was trying to guard this guy. I mean, I was quick. I'm still like pretty quick and nimble, but nothing. This was like 400% faster than me. This guy crossed me over. Like I fell on the floor. I got up and they're laughing at me, and I probably slipped on my own sweat. Got up the next play. The dude alley-oop to the, like I was guarding this guy, cut in onto the hoop. I get blasted. This guy alley-oops, and he literally jumps. He jumps over me, over my head, and dunks on me. And I'm like, oh my God. And I got done with this game. And the pickup game was probably like 15 minutes. And I laid down on the bleachers, and my significant other came out of, and she looked at me, and I was wearing jeans, of course, too. My jeans were soaked through. Like she's like, did you go in the pool with your clothes on? That's how bad I sweat. So yeah, like even a sweatband doesn't help. My hats, like the dude asked yesterday when we were at the track, because I sweated through my hat, the brim, and the bill at the tip was dripping water off the tip of the bill. That's how much it had soaked through. Totally gross. Anyway,
I work with a farm animal.
TMI.
If anyone's wondering. All right, go back to the questions. Where the fuck am I? Sorry. Reasonable Paul. Thank you for your $2 donations. He says all I can afford, because he just filled up his 5.7 liter Tundra for $247.
oh my God,
It's probably California.
that's crazy. I think our premium here is pushing $7.
It's like 6 something, isn't it?
I think it was like $6.70 when I filled up. It depends on the area, because our different like municipalities
The
have
BP by
different
me
tax.
isn't so bad. I think it's like 620 or something.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's still bad.
Woodman's was $5.99 yesterday for premium.
Oh, wow. Kyle Nordanick, thank you for the $10. Will the podcast come back at some point in the future? Maybe. It's more about
I
the
wanted
time
to.
thing.
It's just time. Like I
We'll
can't
be on
get a
Everyday
video.
Drivers podcast
Okay.
someday, maybe, probably. I think we're supposed to do something with them.
I think I would do the podcast again where I didn't have the workload of trying to get videos out. If I could do that and I could just get back at, like, this is essentially a podcast. Honestly, this is what this becomes, a live podcast.
Tony Barnes for $5. I'm in the market for a new lease. Is the Kona a good option for four-wheel drive efficient, practical, sporty vehicle under $35,000? I'll leave that to you.
What about the Nero? Like, I don't like the
But for
Kona.
$35,000, there's a lot of cars.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't like the Kona.
I just don't like the Kona styling, but I guess there's nothing wrong with it. So let's put it that way.
Would you rather have a new HRV, which we haven't driven?
I would rather have an HRV.
There you go.
But I hate the CVT though. That's the thing. Like I mean,
But the Kona's so small.
it is. It's very small. Like that's what I thought. I like the Nero is a little bit more normal style.
Physically, it's not that small, but inside, the Elantra has more back seat space.
Right. Yeah. So one of the things about the Kona that's cool is it's got like the throwback interior. Like everything's basic. It's super, super basic with a decent infotainment that is simple to use. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, like everything's physical, there's no bullshit.
Good.
Yeah, I mean that's probably one of the few cars
So
left.
the Civic.
I know the Civic is
No, not the Civic. The HRV, which is
the HRV
Civic.
does the same thing in a little bit more modern space, but it's also a much bigger car. You know what I mean? Like maybe you don't need that big of a vehicle because the HRV makes that thing look like,
Wait, drive an HRV. If you don't like the HRV, get a Kona or get a Trax because I'm sure you can get one of those for real cheap.
Please don't get a Trax.
Rick,
don't pay them for that.
Well, now he's not. Now he's paying a dealer for it because they're out of business.
They killed the Trax. They killed the Trax in the Encore.
Yeah, now that they've killed the Trax on the Encore, the GM engineers at the events I went to make fun of it, which is amazing.
Of course. Yeah, that's one of the best things about the press events is you can't make fun of existing product, but you can make fun of product that has been discontinued. So it's like, that's what I wait for. Finally, I can go to a GM event and just be like, start talking shit and they won't kick me out.
Yeah, I was joking. One of the engineers on the Escalade V, his last project he's doing is this. He's retiring. He's a company man. He went to the company store. Super nice dude. 36 years at the company or something along those lines. And I'm like, aren't you happy it's this project?
And not the tracks.
Yeah, not the tracks.
Yeah.
And he had the biggest smile on his face. It's like, I knew some poor SOB, his last project was the tracks,
Did
not
he say
me.
that?
No, but that was the look he gave me.
He probably gave you that look because he's just like,
fuck this guy. The tracks is amazing. Rick Kuehl, Rick, thank you for the $20. Thank you for all.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, and he said, thank you for all you do. Hopefully this helps with the gas. It does. Thank you, Rick. Looking forward to your new Corvette Z06 video. God, I hope that video is good. And God, I hope it actually happens.
The Z06?
The
old one?
C8, the C8 Z06.
Yeah.
I've wanted to meet Tadge Juchter since I was a little kid. It's not like Andreas Preininger's levels of wanting to meet him, but he's really high up there as far as the and that dude is like C5 all the way to C8. So he's a cool guy, I think. Maybe he'll hate me. Who knows?
I'll just sit behind the camera and like make sure all the settings.
Yeah,
are
my pants will be just.
Yeah, I gotta give Jack. I gotta get him extra large pants for when he meets Tadge. I mean,
hey, I'll be probably the most excited anyone's ever been to meet a middle-aged white dude.
I'm happy for you that you get excited like for some of the stuff to have these experiences.
But it's like the childhood expectation for me where you didn't have that.
That's what's different between us. Is like to me, like some of these projects or cars or people, like I like learning it as I go, but I don't get excited. I'm not the person that gets excited beforehand. I get excited and engaged when I'm in the time and like learning stuff.
There's a free question. I'm going to answer this right now. Nissan Z versus Toyota 86 in the market. You cannot make an 86 faster than a Z for the same amount of money. I don't care what you do. If the Z is on the same tires as the 86, it will not be faster. My 86 is going to be like a $42,000 car by the time we're done. Oleans, camber plates, camber arms, big brake kit, wheels and tires, like an exhaust.
Yeah.
On no planet is that car going to be faster than a Z.
Well, you're not even talking about the engine difficulty of trying to get the power up to compete with that. You're going basically from what was it, 220 horsepower
to 400 horsepower.
Yeah, and
if you're looking for speed,
yeah,
you can forget about it. But if you just want a fun driving car, the 86 is totally fun.
I wonder when you like get the Subaru out there with the 86 and the Z at the same time and really drive them back to back on decent tires. Like I'm wondering what the driver involvement part will be.
By then, hopefully the 86 is done. It'll have all the parts done to it.
Yeah,
we'll throw it in our comparison test because it'll be like a $40,000 86 if you think about the parts and whatnot into it. So hopefully that answers your question. Yes, strap rockets to the 86 roof. Apparently you've been talking to Chin Face. That's one of his solutions.
Well, it's the strap rockets to the top.
Evolving for $10. Thank you for your donation. 2022 Tacoma TRD Off-Road / TRD Pro, manual or automatic? If you got a Tacoma, would you get a manual or automatic?
Manual for that because it'll definitely
be worth way more money.
Yeah, 100%.
And the auto's trash.
Right.
So.
Somebody asked about the X7. I got to answer that.
Yes.
The question is, hey Ryan, how do you like your X7? I have a G05 X5 and the suspension is too stiff. I'm considering either a Cayenne or an X7, but leaning towards the X7 as ride quality is my number one. There is no replacing the ride quality of the Cayenne or that specific tuning. That is one of the best riding SUVs on the planet. And the problem is you can't get it in a 3-row, which would be the only reason in my approximation.
So much money.
It is insane how much money it is for what you get. The X7 is nowhere near as good of ride control as that, but it is way softer, at least on the 550 variant with the V8. It is more of a boaty ride. What would you say, like in terms of ride quality?
So I've ridden in the back and the front, and I've driven both vehicles. Whenever I have the superpower of being able to sleep anywhere, you can ask this guy, I will out.
Yeah.
on a plane. And literally in the X7 yesterday, driving back, I was out.
It's really quiet and it's,
It's
really,
really
comfortable.
comfortable.
It's
Yep.
a very soft ride with air suspension. You have to get air ride in it, otherwise you lose that.
The Cayenne's a better driving car, though.
The Cayenne is better in almost everything, but the X7 is about 80% of that in terms of ride refinement. And that extra 20% isn't worth the money in my approximation, and go to the Cayenne and losing the space. That's why I have the X7, is I needed that 3-row for hauling all this shit and the track stuff, and that part of it is important to me. If I didn't need a 3-row, I'd be in a Cayenne if I had Cayenne money.
Next question for you, Mark. Sorry, I apologize, guys. There's a lot of comments. What are your top picks? Kyle Hernandez, thank you for the $10. What are your top picks in the compact luxury sports segment? M340i, TLX, Type S, non Quadrifoglio Giulia, Audi S5, all that shit, or S4.
Sorry, I was
no worries.
turned out. Sorry.
Top picks in the compact sport luxury segment: M340i, TLX, Type S, Giulia, I think S4.
You had to go to the BMW, honestly,
or the S4.
The S4, yeah, those two, and then you go to the Type TLX. I really like the TLX Type S, but God, that transmission, man! If they fix the tuning on it, it would be so much better. Like, because it's a pretty complete car, and it feels more special. It feels less cardboard than those other cars because it's, I don't know, maybe it's just the Acura Honda person in me, but it'd be BMW S4 Type S, and then whatever the Giulia, because the Giulia non-QV, to me, it doesn't do it.
The Giulia, to me, is killed by the fact that you are buying a premium car but going to a Dodge dealer, and
Pretty
it's
much, yeah.
small.
It is small. The interior is very small.
And you can't turn off traction control, so if
Yeah.
you want to have a good time.
I like the car. I just don't like it Quadrifoglio.
The Quadrifoglio version is
Yeah, I mean,
but it's so much money.
It is. It's a lot of money, and you have like huge maintenance concerns with that.
Meister Chan for $5. Everybody is asking what Savage Geese is doing, but not how are Savage Geese doing. Thank you for sticking to your laurels in automotive journalism.
I'm going to let you. I'm not even going to go into that. I mean, I think from my conversation here so far,
we're burnt the fuck out.
That's it.
Yeah.
I think I struggle with this. Like I told Jack today, and I felt bad. And it's this mix of like being angry and like not having enough time to do what I wanted to do with this. And I sent Jack a text because I just repaired all our audio equipment, like our adapters, our wireless adapters, and I got all this shit back, and it took like a month to get it back. And then Jack dropped one of them, and obviously he didn't do it on purpose. So I sent him a message. I'm like, dude, what the fuck, And I'm like sitting here, and it's like it shouldn't be about this stuff.
No,
and
but
that's
it has
not
to
what.
be.
But it's all these little things start to eat away at like what I wanted to do with this, because everything is like now. With the way the economy is going, the way that this is going to make this work, like I'm looking at this stuff like I never used to look at it before, like little shit like this. Like it's a battery pack, right? It's $40. I got to replace like 6 of them. The camera stuff, we dropped something yesterday, and if it would have broke,
It would have been $7,000.
it would have been $7,000 from that mistake, and like I would have, the whole project that we did wouldn't even pay for
No,
it.
it wouldn't.
So it's all these little things, the back end stuff that starts to eat away at the fun. And when we get to these shoots, they take too long. We're blowing an entire like 2 days, 3 days on something, and then right when you're done, you don't even get to savor it. Like you see the video is the best part sometimes, because you get to see that moment in time where we're actually like engaged in it. And then when we're done, it's like
off to the next thing.
It's gone into the next thing. You don't get to stay in the moment very often, and that's what's killing it for me. And there's no way out of it currently. I think Jack's been working more than anybody could possibly ask to try to be creative with the tools that you have. And I can no longer give Jack the tools or any additional like help, because I don't have time to do
now
anything
it's just
else.
getting big projects on our end and making sure our the back end of the business runs well.
Yeah,
I'll
but
move
anyway.
on to the next question.
Yeah, sorry.
Gary for $20, no question. Just bought a Bronco, and the dealership offered me $68,000 for my 28 LC. Just couldn't bring myself to give her up. Your LC review still remains my all-time favorite. Hope you're still enjoying yours. Here's some gas. Cheers.
I don't have my LC anymore. I didn't make it public because I'm actually kind of ashamed that I don't have it.
Mhm.
I love that car, and it was one of those that I really, really wanted to keep, and I couldn't afford to keep it.
Yeah, just
That's
rotted the whole time.
and I
really.
didn't drive it. I mean, that's really what it was. You know, you tie up that kind of money with something that's sitting in a garage. I didn't drive it in the winter because I liked it and I didn't want to destroy it. And then the summer came around. I'm like, do I need a hauler I'm gonna use for work, that we need to travel? Like if we go long distances, I need a
Well,
real
to be
hauler.
fair, we didn't need the X7. We could have bought something cheaper.
That's true. The Sienna would have been, I
Mhm.
think in retrospect, the Sienna would have been a better option. But that's, again, if we're using it on track, you know, the Sienna is not going to be very good at higher speed or doing some of that stuff.
Oh, that's why you're going to get an Essex big brake kit on your hybrid Sienna.
The X7 bridged the gap for me because I couldn't carry like having multiple cars like at that price.
Well, the X7 was 120 grand.
Yeah, well, I didn't buy.
Yeah, I
new.
know,
I didn't
but
buy
still.
new, but you know, like having two cars. So the V8 and the X7 kind of gives you some of the feeling of like the LC with the V8, but it's not. Again, we make compromises in terms of like what's practical, but so he didn't sell it. He said
No,
right?
he hasn't sold it yet.
If you can afford to keep it, it's a very special car, and I've said multiple times, if things change for me, I would love to have an LC and just keep it forever, but it's just
Who
not
knows
happening.
at this point?
Yeah.
Lots of questions. Gary, thank you again for the $20. Wally Al Zubiri, I apologize if I mispronounce your name. Thank you for the $10. Is it dumb to go from an Audi S5 Sportsback to a Golf R 2019? I'm torn because I like the comfort and engine of the Audi, but it feels lazy compared to the Golf R. If you want a different experience, you're not so mentally attached to the S5, get the Golf R.
I mean, they're both great.
Yeah,
I mean,
the S5 is a cruiser. The Golf R.
I love the S5 because it's not pretending to be anything that it's not, right? It's just a really good like luxury car with a little bit of speed, a little bit of performance, and you can use it every day. The Golf R is the same thing. It's just like amped up a bit. There's more edginess to it. It's more like engaging to drive, but it's still very luxurious. It's just a hatchback, right?
Puzzled Bunny for $20. Thank you, Puzzled Bunny. Best feeling gearbox in the last decade. Common, and I'll bake into something else. Is there an uncommon interior complaint you would like to complain about? So best feeling gearbox is first. I'll tell you mine after you tell me yours.
You go first.
GT350.
Mm-hmm.
The gearbox in the Black Wings.
Mm-hmm.
That 6-speed Tremec's amazing. I will give you GT3, GT4 manual gearbox. The 6-speed out of Porsches is great. CTR is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty much what comes to mind. What about you? Best feeling? Oh, and you're going to say your S2000 too. The S2000's got a good gearbox.
But that's not a new car.
No, it's a decade. He said last. Oh no, it's outside of the decade.
Outside of the decade. Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Probably basically any of the Tremec units, the Porsche stuff, the high-end Porsche stuff, the GT shifters are really, really solid, especially in the GT4. That was a really great feeling gearbox. Yeah, for like economy cars, I think the Civic Type R is really good. Actually, the new SI is surprisingly really good
because it's a Type R gearbox.
Yeah. I mean, it feels really good for being like a cable
operating
shifter. Like the way that they did the mechanism, it's the right amount of metal in there and plastic that makes it feel very, like I talk about that wrist action, that mechanical wrist action without like you having to do like a full
shotgun blast.
Yeah, like Jack likes to muscle shift, so he appreciates that. So I guess if you like the precision, but I think those transmissions you mentioned, especially the Tremec's and
when you say muscle shift, I mean I think of the Cobra R video where I'm like, the transmission's manly, makes your biceps bulge. Chinface still quotes to me every so often, you got back seats because you're a breeder. Or you're an alpha, which means you like to breed.
Yeah, that
video was amazing.
Was that a minivan?
No, that was the Terminator Cobra.
Oh God,
where you're like Barbara. Barbara said, "Why don't you have a Ferrari?"
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true. I only remember John Coletti. Was that his name?
Yeah, John. That guy. Apparently, he was just like John Business Hammer. He's just
Is
like,
that was his nickname, the Hammer? Or something?
no, I don't know. But he's
Okay.
just like, you don't agree with me? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, that's old school way of doing things. That's how you get a car called the Terminator built.
Anyway, I'll go back to the main questions. Sorry, I didn't mean to uncommon interior complaint that you have in the deep down in your head.
I don't like analog clocks. It's not too many people do it anymore. I just think
The sports chrono clock is amazing.
I think that's stupid. The fact that you have to pay
heritage.
for it too, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think it's stupid.
$500.
You can't. I mean, I can't see it. Like I don't want to look at hands moving.
It's really the problem is you can't read an analog clock. That's what you're telling me.
I grew up with analog clocks.
I know you can't read analog clocks, Mark.
You're right. I can't. The little hands. I have to. That's not even like a real interior complaint because that's just stupid. I think some of the. Oh, I do. I guess it would be technically interior complaints. I hate what GM and Ford do, where you leave the car key in and it's got a honk.
Well, when I gave him the C7, his child's trying to sleep, and the C7 is so loud when you leave a key in it. It's like honk.
Oh my god, that is the worst. That's the dumbest thing. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say. There's got to be some other shit. What about like the door handle stuff, like where you have to go dig in the door handle to pull it out?
The S-Class door handles made me so angry. Like if you left the key in the car and they eventually pop back in, you have to like dig at the door handle.
Or the sensor doesn't pick up that you're there and doesn't pop out, so you have to wait like 3 seconds to pull a door handle. Some of the electronic door handles on the inside now, where it's a button like on the door that you have to push versus like pulling a handle. It's like all this bridge crap between like digital and electronic stuff that's like trying to reinvent the wheel that actually is making it far less usable like quickly. Mm-hmm. So I was talking about in the HRV, that first look, like that was the first question. I'm like, there's no automatic lift gate. They're like, no, we don't have an automatic lift gate on the thing. And then you open it, like you literally put your hand there, click, it flies up in 2 seconds because the struts on it are like
brand new.
I mean, the thing is like, it's way quicker than that. And I'm like, this is amazing. But I get the same point. People like the practicality of not having to go up to it and touch something. I mean,
I'm mixed on it because when you have all your groceries, being able to wave your foot underneath it is actually nice.
It depends on the car it is too. Like you complain about, like you call it doesn't have keyless entry, which, you know, the proximity key where you come up to the door.
Everything needs to be easy for me, Mark. I live a privileged life.
I get that. I actually get that there's something very special about having to just grab the handle and unlock without having to push a button, or like having the button to lock it there without having to use the remote. I think it is very handy and it's not that difficult to do in terms of technology. But I will one-up you with the BMW that I really have come to appreciate, is that its proximity. When you get near the car, it unlocks. So I walk like 5 feet from the car and it knows the keys in my pocket and auto unlocks. And it will do the same thing when you walk away from the car. And the beauty of that is, like, the other thing I hate is when you come to a car, and this happens all the time because we park cars, I leave the key in the car so I can go in, and I go back and I need to get in the passenger side, and it's only has one door unlocked, but all the other ones are fucking locked, and I have to go back in the car, hit unlock. And it like, I know some of the cars allow you to change the settings for that, but a lot of them don't. Like the honking thing on the GMs. Like, who thought of that? I mean, it's probably a legal thing. They probably got sued or something. Or they owe like $6 billion they never paid back.
Unpassed for $5. Has the Honda CRZ aged well?
No.
Yeah,
I mean, I like it, but I don't think it did. I thought it would have aged better than it did, honestly.
E-Train for $2. Thank you for the $2. Thank you for the $5. Unpassed. 50-year-old male wants to learn manual, new or used. For a second, I thought that was like a dating thing. Like 50-year-old male.
Hold on a second. I'm going to change your battery back.
No, thank you.
While I'm changing that, I'm going to readdress the CRZ just for a second. The CRZ could have been something great, but I think they cheaped out on it. Like making it a fit into a 2-door car that looked like an Insight. I was so excited for that. And then you drove the one that first came out and it was like, this is what you did with all this time. I expected it to be like a CRX 2-door, 2-seater. It was a 2-seater car. It should have been way cooler.
I remember watching the first videos in that car. I'm like, man, this thing blows.
I mean, I thought it would be cool, but it wasn't.
That's the car they needed to put a K20 in, right? Like that car would be, if they would have changed the styling just a little bit. If they would have done like the Civic Si motor or whatever the other thing was, I don't remember, the other 2-liter, that thing would have been like, you couldn't even get one right now. That's how popular it'd be. But that's just, it's weird with Honda's disconnect. That was back to the topic we had. Like the Japanese mentality versus the American mentality is way different
and risk adverse.
Yes. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about it.
The E-Train, what's that easy? I'll answer this one. The 3 easiest cars to learn manual on: the new Civic Si, because it's a great manual gearbox.
Yep.
The Mazda 3, because it's kind of really forgiving.
Yeah.
And like a GTI, because it's really forgiving.
And that's the most plasticky shifter you ever felt in your life. So if you, like that it's honestly, it's like one of the worst manual transmissions, but it's so easy. It's like a toy flipping it around. So
but it's easy to learn.
And the anti rollback stuff on it is, on all 3 of those cars, is really good if you don't know how to learn or drive. So you don't have the fear of rolling back. And then what's the car? I know the Porsches restart themselves. So if you stall it, like if you stall
great car to learn to burn a clutch.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm saying. Like I forgot, there's some cars that are restarting themselves. So you stall it in first. Oh shit! You go back into neutral and put it back into first. It actually restarts itself without having to touch the start. I know Porsche does it.
Any incoming meetups and track days, you'll probably see us in any Chicago Auto Pros meetups. I'm trying to do this event again, but now under the guise of a Chicago Auto Pros thing. The thing is, if we do a giant track day, and I'm really trying to get all the other outlets that we're friends with, the other YouTubers, have a real track day, a car show, and autocross all happening at the same time, I don't want to be that asshole that makes money off of you guys. I'd rather another business do that and also assume some of the responsibility. I'm not in the event running business.
Right.
So
and we're not selling anything.
Exactly.
So there's not a lot of benefit for us to put up a lot of the time and energy to try
but
to
Chicago Auto Pros is going to work with me, apparently, to try to do this big event. And they're going to...
And they have stuff they can sell
you.
They can do detailing services on site. They can sell product or like stuff to get people in for the business side of it, where all we have to do is like hang out and drive, right? That's the ideal situation for us. And I think most of our contemporaries, like, Throttle House or Stray Pipes and like Forrest and Albon and like Matt Moran and Engineering Explained, all those guys
want to come.
Yeah.
So Neb would have liked to thank you for your $5, Neb. Would have liked to have seen you guys at the RS3 track event. Anyways, any plans for video? We are finally getting an RS3. I have no idea why we weren't invited to the RS3 track event.
Our previous rep for Audi, who's now not with Audi anymore, he apologized to us that he left Audi, and he apologized that we could never get any cars. I don't know what it is. I don't know what you're supposed to do. Maybe we just have everybody in this live stream write a serious letter by mail, first class, to Audi headquarters.
So, I when the relationships I run with a lot of the OEMs, I run it like a business because I have to.
Yeah, right.
I look at it purely numerically. So after a launch event, I tabulate all the video performance globally on a car, everyone who attended, and I send that to the OEM. And not to toot any horns.
Yeah, it's not about being better. It's just like,
it's an objective
that's
measurement.
How you have to justify the fact that they pay to send you a car. Right?
And we've been pretty lucky. Outside of maybe one event we've done, we haven't been number 1 or 2.
Right, yeah.
And, from my perspective, that's all an OEM should care about, right? Coverage, how much coverage you get. I can argue that we have pretty decent coverage. It's not just I'm reading the brochure to you.
Yeah, that we're trying. I guess that's the point. Like this, it's... See,
anyway, I give up.
Yeah. I don't know. There's nothing more.
I give up.
But you were getting one, you said.
We're getting one, but press events where we get access to the engineers, I give up.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
HVO for $5. What car, not CV, SUV, would you recommend to an enthusiast with a small family? Or car? Accord, Camry, ES, Lexus. What else? What other car?
You say car?
Yeah, car specifically.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. Accord is probably the biggest one. That thing's enormous. It's a boat,
and it's good. My neighbor has one. He loves his 2-liter.
Yeah,
Accord.
it's a really good car. It's not forgotten about. But I mean, with SUV stuff, yeah. And the Camry is. You might be able to find an Avalon that's in really like now that they discontinued. I'd be curious to see what the prices are on that. But that's another one because the Avalon interior is better than the Camry. It just feels better.
And as you go up, TLX ES is great.
Yeah, TLX is good. I'm sure you can find a TLX cheap.
A regular G80 is good.
A G80s, I don't know what the prices are on the new G80s because they're still too new. But even, well, you'd almost have to go to the new G80, but that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
You're going
I'm
up to
just
like
I'm just
50
going up through
plus.
all the cars. Airheaded Aviator, thank you for the $2. What do you think of
Thank
the
you.
Mitsubishi Eclipse? We're going to try to
Cross?
get through these faster because we've
The
like
Eclipse, what?
a regular
Cross?
Eclipse. We have 50 minutes left. I'm going to try to get through these questions. But what do you think of the Eclipse, Mark?
Which one?
The Eclipse, just regular Eclipse. I can't imagine you ask about the Eclipse Cross.
Well, my mind's stuck on SUVs. I don't. The last one with the V6, I hated that car. That thing was such a boat, handled like shit, front wheel drive. The original Eclipse, like that loved. I don't know what generation it is, but the one with the
All-wheel drive?
yeah, all-wheel drive turbo, the
No.
GST, I think it was, or GSX. Those were really cool, but you had to be so careful with the gearboxes. And in retrospect, those are like, you get them because they're cool and you love them, not because they're the best performance. You buy an Evo. That's what replaced it. But I always loved the Eclipse, not the Eclipse Cross.
To answer one of this, someone's asking me where I'm pulling these comments for. They cycle out through Super Chat, but Chinface has been kind enough to actually send me every single paid question.
Yeah, so
I
say thanks to Chris. He's
Yeah.
the guy that's going to be on the video Monday with Jack for the Cadillac V.
where he sees God.
Yeah. He moderates all this shit for us so the comments don't turn into a nightmare. And he gets all the comments to us so we're not having to look at the screen and turn this into a disaster.
Tom for $20.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks, everybody, again.
CT5V Blackwing manual. Both your candid opinions requested. How connected is the driving experience based on any other modern four-door rear-wheel drive V8 sedan made in the last 20 years?
I'll just say the CTS 5V, I really liked it. It reminds me of the old M5s.
Mhm.
It feels, there's a lot of tech there, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of layers, but you feel like you're driving that car, unlike the modern M5s where it feels like it's just you're not doing anything. That car has a connection. I mean, it's still a luxury car, but it still feels like, you feel things going on. I like that about it.
Let me say this. I liked that car so much, and I told him this, that I seriously considered getting rid of the car that I'm hopefully getting instead of... I considered getting rid of or not buying a dedicated sports car versus the Blackwing. That's how much I liked the CT5e Blackwing.
I think you're crazy, but whatever.
But to me, it's like the ultimate monkey car. Like if there's a car that
right,
like
true. It's like the SS or what was the pile? The Holden,
the SS,
that Holden, the SS thing. That's what that car's like, but it's way better, way better. Yeah,
to me, it was like the Hellcat.
Yeah, Hellcat with like
refinement,
better. It's
shame-free Hellcat.
Yeah, true. No, there's no shame to that car. I mean, you could cover up the Cadillac badge if you care about that.
Fly Death 18 for $5. Hey guys, what are your thoughts on the new? Oh, what are the cons of the Blackwing? It's a GM product. That's a con.
It's very expensive.
Yeah,
for what it is, it's very expensive. Yeah, fuel economy was abysmal on it. Right.
It's never going to be a track car. You can drive it on the track like I did, and it will probably be fine. But it's never going to be as rewarding as like a dedicated Corvette
right.
It's
a huge car. I mean, when you drive it, like I said, old M5. I mean, it's a big car, and you feel its weight. I mean, it makes its weight hidden very well, but it's still a big boaty car. The other thing is the interior is very average. Like it's not.
$100,000.
No, like you think of $100,000 and it looks like something out of a $50,000 car. Yeah. Not bad. Not like old Cadillac where like what was the pile we got into? The old CTSV.
The Gen 2.
It was like everything is shaking and rattling in there, and every surface you touch is like all the plastic.
Yeah, the one where I put exit wounds on the head unit.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that thing was a pile. So the new one doesn't feel like that at all. And granted, we drove a brand new one, so maybe after 5,000 miles it'll turn into that, but I don't know.
Fly Death 18. Hey guys, thank you, Fly Death, for your $5.
Thank you, sir.
Thoughts on the new
or whatever?
Thoughts on the new laws for 25-year-old and older cars? What the fuck? Let me read that again. I apologize. Hey guys, what are your thoughts on the new laws for 25-year-old and older new manufactured reproduction cars that just became a thing here in the USA? I don't know anything about that. There's some law change apparently regarding to how old the car has to be.
Oh, really? I didn't hear about that.
I didn't hear about that either.
So they're making it longer than that now?
I have no idea.
Hopefully someone said something in the comments.
Yeah, because I don't want to look it up.
I have no idea. message us on Instagram directly, and we will answer that question because I have not read anything about that.
Yeah, I don't know about it either. I haven't been paying attention.
Sorry,
I only
Fly
know
Death.
about the person that had an STD.
Uh,
I got 5 million for getting an STD and a Genesis.
Jonathan Aboot, thank you for the $10 Canadian. What are your thoughts on the new Sequoia 2023? Do you think the hybrid will be an issue? On the Tundra, will it be fixed on the Sequoia? Do you think the TRD Pro has the best value proposition? We didn't do a TRD review like everybody else did. We just interviewed the engineers, the Sequoia.
Oh yeah.
What do you think of that thing?
The Sequoia?
Yeah, we just drove it. We can talk about it. The embargo's up. We just
I mean, it's a Tundra with a cab.
Yeah,
that's what it feels like. I mean,
because it is
literally,
one.
Yeah, I mean, you interviewed the dude, and I didn't watch the footage from what you interviewed. So what is it like? What's the deal?
So the center frame has been elongated, obviously, because it's the fit or changed. Changed from the Tundra. But what they've changed suspension geometry a little bit. The dampers and the springs are different. But drivetrain is physically identical 100%, including ratios, gearbox, all that shit from the regular Tundra. So if there are still problems with the Tundra, there are going to be problems with the Sequoia. If they fix it on the Tundra, there won't be problems on the Sequoia. But that hybrid drivetrain, ignoring potential reliability problems, which honestly, I think Toyota does a pretty good job with their hybrids. I mean, the Priuses are bomb-proof, more or less.
Well, we talked about where they put the battery back in the Tundra video. It's in the back, so you can get to it, and it's small, so there's way less of an issue in terms of cost. So even the hybrid system, you're not going to have a problem with the electric motor in between the trans and the transfer case or whatever. You're not going to have a problem with that. I mean, that technology has been around forever. So from that perspective, I don't see it being a major issue.
Do I think the TRD Pro is the best value proposition? I don't think the TRD Pro, unless you're really off-roading, makes a whole lot of sense. It looks cool, but didn't you have more fun? Well, I had more fun going back in the soft boaty one than I did driving around.
Yeah, I think just, for those types of vehicles, they're so big and they're so cumbersome that, to me, I would rather have them be more enjoyable, like comfortable to drive in, versus being jostled around so much. I mean, I get the big truck thing with like the TRD suspension being hyper capable, but that's like, there is a sacrifice to the ride a bit. And of course, tire noise, right? I mean, it is a lot noisier than the regular one.
Let me get back through some more of these questions. Chris Brown for $5. Funnily enough, there's another person named Chris Brown.
Yeah, there's a lot of Chris Browns. That's the good thing.
Love you, Mr. Goose and Jack. What about a paid hosting platform like Floatplane? I know nothing about Floatplane. Do you know anything?
I don't know anything about Floatplane. It's a paid platform where you put your content on and they pay you for it?
Yeah, probably.
Like what Samsung was asking about?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I want to sell all my videos and not lose the rights to them. I want to sell all my videos for $6 million.
So you can buy an LC500?
Yeah, that way I can buy a whole fleet of them and maybe put some coolers on them too.
Funky Fudge 11. My watch is reminding me it's time to stand because we've been here for like 4 hours.
You got reminders for that?
Yeah,
you can't just stand up?
I also have a reminder for when I have to breathe.
Oh, good. I'm actually going to have to head to the urination station pretty soon here.
Let me get through these questions so they don't have to hear you.
I won't do that.
Destroy your prostate. Funky Fudge for $5. I love your opinion videos where you two could just talk. Could be a good return on investment for y'all. It seems quick and cheap to produce. It is quick and cheap to produce. Maybe we do that more. That's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah.
We just talk about topics.
I mean, they're hyper easy. They just become essentially video podcasts, with no guests.
Just us.
I just need to have a guest that's like that doesn't talk. They're just like, oh man, you're so cool. It just reaffirm all my things that
I didn't think about it that way. You're a genius.
Yeah, I want to become Elon Musk for my video podcast where somebody's just like,
where three people watch it.
Yeah, you're the best.
Terminal 3 for $10. With MBZ going all-wheel drive on their Sprinter vans next year, what do you think happens for the 4x4 off-grid van culture?
I don't know. You have to go to VW for the van culture with their new electric pile, the bus thing.
I think he's seeing Mercedes-Benz.
Oh, okay. No, I don't know. I don't know what the hell they're doing. I mean, they're getting rid of a lot of stuff, too. They're getting rid of V8s.
I just don't know how you're going to off-road for days when you don't have an infrastructure to recharge your vehicle.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, for sure.
Alexander Sousa, thank you for the $5. Hello, Jack and Mark. I wanted to thank you for your videos and content, honest, real, and sincere. Also, engineering. Thank you, Alex. I really appreciate it, Alex.
I'll be curious to see. Like, there's a lot of technical people that watch this stuff, and I know it's highly appreciated. I mean, I don't want to undersell the fact that it's hyper important to me, and I know it's important to you. That's one of the things that I really like getting into that people don't talk about. But it makes me wonder, like, do people is that good enough? I mean, what do people want more than that? Like, does it need to be more entertainment focused? Like, I never think about that. We kind of just do what we do. But
no, when people meet us in person, like it happens surprisingly a lot more than I thought it would. Where people go, "Oh, I know you."
Yeah, Red Lobster.
Yeah, Red Lobster. When I'm there, I have my Admiral's fees like bring me lobster.
Yeah, and you have your full Mai Tai,
and I wear my. Do they give you a hat or is it a bib?
No, they give you a bib for crab day when you get the crabs. And then
I want them to give me an Admiral's hat when I ordered the Admiral's banquet.
That'd be too much money. People would steal that and they'd go out of business.
People are always surprised that we're literally what you see on this couch, what you see in person, what you see in the videos is pretty similar. There isn't like in the videos we energy up a little bit.
Yeah, not usually. I mean,
it's just when we're really tired and we're like, "Hey guys."
Somebody said that like they don't like the over exaggeration.
It's not over exaggerated, but I'm just like we gotta actually.
I think we rarely get over exaggerated. Any sense of enjoyment usually is just the pure enjoyment of experiencing a car with each other. Like it is fun. It's more fun than just going out and driving by yourself. So when I see you get amped up like an idiot, it's more fun for me, obviously.
Yeah, this guy, when you watch your NSX Type S video, which is combined in the NSX video, I've become a far more competent driver over the last couple of years. But your level of fear of me going, and to be fair, it was totally under control. Your level of fear of me going flat out. And to be fair, when you are in the NSX Type S, you feel nothing.
I think it's my lack of confidence in the car because you don't know what's happening in it.
To be fair, you're a pretty good passenger. Like in the GT4 RS, I was going flat out and you no problems.
I mean, I think the problem with NSX Type S is like they enclosed trailer it to us. There's 2 in the country. You know, I'm sitting here thinking like, I don't know what this car is going to do at the limit. Like, I don't know what happens to it.
Oversteer.
It doesn't feel, but you can't tell what the hell's going on with it. So you're driving it and the car's so fast. I'm like, it's not going to make it in this turn. Like, so I don't know what it's going to do at the limit.
Your face was amazing.
Oh, I was scared. I was scared because I'm like, all these things are going through my head. I'm like, is this the limit or what is it going to do next? And I didn't want to find out going into a tire wall or something.
I would have been exciting though.
Yeah, real exciting.
Hey, Acura, I'm moving to Mexico.
Then there's all the views you want. You could say, oh man, look, I got 5 million views on my NSX Type S video.
Well, I crash into the wall at full speed. Chuck you, $5. Does working in the car industry take away joy from cars?
Yes. Don't even have to explain that one.
Scott Colpitz for $20. GR ride-along video coming. Can Jack comment or no? So I shot the ride-along video, and then we were trying to get people to talk about it on camera, and that was a dumpster fire.
I'm putting it on Patreon, and I haven't done it yet, but I got to cut it together.
It was a dumpster fire because the U.S. team doesn't know anything about that car.
Oh, they do.
They know. I'm not going to talk about it, but
I feel less obligated not to say. But we interviewed the head of marketing for the car, and we asked very basic questions about the GR Corolla and the Supra, and like we asked about a manual and they gave us not a real answer. So I'm not using.
We built it internally, except it wasn't.
No, he said it was bespoke.
It was bespoke, but it comes right off the M240i.
Yeah, but it's just weird. Like I don't know what the problem with the transparency was there if they're not supposed to talk about it yet. But it was just weird like that where it wasn't honest. So I didn't.
But I rode along in the car, and as someone who's going to buy a car, those who watch enough of our videos know that I like going sideways. I really don't like cars that feel front driven. I hate front wheel drive cars because they don't do the thing I want cars to do.
Right, just go sideways.
The GR Corolla, I rode in the regular one and the Acura Toyota model.
Mm-hmm.
It feels not pushy. And when I talk to the pro drivers, they say when you put it in sport mode, which is where it's rear bias versus track mode, it's almost twitchy in the way that it wants to loop on you, which is exactly what I want to hear in a car like that. I want it to feel like
danger.
I mean, it's still a front wheel drive platform, so you're never going to get away from that.
No, I
guess
know.
you're always going to have to like drive it differently than you would.
But it shouldn't be like an understeer.
No, it shouldn't
pig,
be like a Mazda Speed 3, like the generation old. Did you ever drive a Mazda Speed 3?
Oh yes, I did. I drove the Gen 1, the
Yeah.
one that was just all it did. The wheel was like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
And torque steered
that
like
was like the
crazy.
worst front wheel drive car.
It was like a muscle car, but
It was like
bad.
the behavior of it. Yeah, that's what I think of. Like some of these all-wheel drive cars, they're so messed up. The front end so messed up. The Corolla doesn't sound like it is.
Adam Khalif, thanks for your honest reviews and analysis. Thank you for your $10. My highlight of the day coming home and seeing the content. Keep up the good work. Adam, thank you very much.
Yeah,
That's very
thank
kind
you.
of you to
That's
say.
a kind word.
James, thank you for the $20 donation. My wife and I are going to buy a 2022 Kia Sorento PHEV. I know you recently did a Kia Sorento video and you seem to like it. Any additional thoughts on the car or the PHEV variant? Well, we've never driven the PHEV variant.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because we had all the Sorrentos except that one, and I think it just goes to show you how difficult it probably is to get.
Gabby B, by the way, for $5, you just asked a question. I'm going to say this right away. We are getting a 2-door Defender with a V8 later this summer.
Oh.
So there you go. I answered that question. But you were saying about the PHEV?
I think they're having problems getting them out, or they don't make a lot of them in typical Hyundai and Kia fashion, and now they're hot right now, so it's going to be even harder to get. But I like the hybrid system that Hyundai and Kia are doing from a transmission perspective and all that. I honestly think, given the warranty, buying it new, that would be the one to get personally at this time period. I know it's very short-sighted because all it takes is like another year and gas prices could be down to like $3
again.
Yeah, $3 and you're like, oh man, I should have got the regular one. But the drivetrain difference between the regular Sorento and the hybrid is like, they're not like night and day where you feel bad for getting one or the other. So get the one that you want that's going to be the most efficient. That's the way I'd put it. Because at the end of the day, it's an appliance, right?
Yeah, man, it's a good car if you look at it as an appliance.
Yeah, I think it's often like forgotten because of the Japanese brands.
Hafid, thank you for the $20. Hopefully I pronounced your name right. I apologize if I didn't. Very big fan. Please don't stop making content. Gearhead here. He owns a GTI Mark 7 and a B9 RS5. The RS5 is a cool car. Any thoughts on the RS? Willing to support you all I can. Well, I just answered. It's a cool car. RS5 is a cool car, isn't it? I know we haven't driven one, but it looks cool. You like the S5? The RS5 is just that turned up.
That was like the most PR answer ever. Like, man, so good.
The guy.
Man, that's just class leading. Yeah, no, the S5, it's like the S5, the same things I like about it with a lot more character and power. It's got that like 35% extra grunt that if you hate the S5, because that's like, this is like old man style, the RS adds that back. And I like the progression of how Audi does those cars. They never feel like they're not trying too hard. It doesn't have the brand snobbery of like the BMW, M shit that gets watered down to the hilt.
A lot of the comp cars from BMW are trash.
Yeah.
Well, really, like the only one I can think of is the
X3M.
The X3M. Well, you liked it in the end, but I thought it didn't.
I liked it because of the color. The matte, the
blue,
matte,
blue car,
red car.
What were you saying though about it? You liked it driving it like an asshole though.
I don't know. I've turned the corner on some BMW stuff recently. I think it's just the transition of like how cars have gotten, and that generation of car with the interior being as boring as it is and physical mostly. I have a greater appreciation for them. Although, yes, their ride quality is
not great.
Ugh.
The AMG Criminal for $5. Thoughts on the Pontiac G8 Holden Commodore and experience with one, offer insight and drivability. Love the content. Keep the grind up. I have not driven one, but I hear it's basically with the Chevy SS. So watch your Chevy SS video. Man,
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Common question: best corporate drivetrain? B58, BMW,
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ZF gearbox. I was thinking about this the other day after driving a lot of these cars. You get into the ZF tuning. And I just say it this way, okay? If you hate BMW, and I hate them in a lot of ways, But if you remove your mindset from that and experience that inline six with that ZF tuning and look at how perfect they have the transmission programming and how great that engine performs at low RPM, high RPM, power output, consistency of power, fuel economy is good. And you just remove your BMW badge from that and look how great of a job they did with that. It's like that to me is the benchmark for everything. It can be comfortable, it can be smooth shifting, it can be crazy fast, almost like dual clutch. I mean, it's just they did such a good job on it.
Here's all you need to know. My mom has a 2020 or 2019 X5, and it gets better fuel economy on the highway than my 86 does because of the way that gear ratio is set up with a B58. And it's also really fast.
Yeah,
for an SUV.
It is. It's very the engine is tremendous on that. And it's proven to be very reliable on top of it. So that's another huge
Because
part.
Akio Toyota blessed it.
Yeah, Akio Toyota said it was good enough.
And that's all that matters.
Yep.
Apparently, this is unrelated, but apparently the Supra lead engineer, for the 5 people still watching this, he came early. I told you this story, right?
Yeah,
He came early to the Supra launch so he could go play Pokemon Go, which is my favorite thing in the world to tell you. He showed up a day early so he could chase Pokemon around VIR. Anyway, God, I love Toyota for that reason. Free Steve for $5. You should make videos like Fast Lane Daily, House of Muscle, and Drive Channel, and bring back that old school YouTube car channel vibe. We're not cool enough to just talk for hours and people will watch us. Remember they used to do like a watch Matt Moran. That's what Matt Moran does. He has his like weekly update.
Yeah, his news thing.
Yeah.
That's too much work for me to gather news, unless it's about, again, the stupid ones that just make me laugh.
Nate,
It's all these great ideas. It's just a matter of
I just need to be cloned like 40 times.
Yeah, Deb from Andy the Lab was talking to me about this. She's like, "Man, you got to do this and that." I'm like, "This." I'm like, so "They're all great ideas." No, I mean literally, it's like it's hard to even argue. The ideas list is. It's not like it's not there. It's just I can't do any more than.
Well, Deb just needs to come to work for us, and she can get paid for nothing.
Yeah,
and,
right.
Yeah, or she can work for free and.
Yeah. If anybody wants to work for free permanently.
Yeah, if someone is a billionaire and wants to work for free
so
for
I could
us.
just lay in bed all day and just be like, "You get that done."
Nate for $5. Hey guys, mom's looking for a Porsche. Good for your mom. Your mom's a woman of taste.
Of course you would say that.
Well, she's looking for a Porsche.
What if she was looking for a RAV4? What would you say to that?
Get a better job. No, I don't actually think that.
Yeah, right. This guy's like, I'm gonna cancel you.
Is the pre-2018 Cayenne a worthy upgrade to the Macan? Thanks. I don't know what Macan you're like looking at as far as like. The problem with the Macan is it's small, and if the the Cayenne is more usable. The Macan drives better than the Cayenne, but the Cayenne is faster. It depends on what you want.
How much money do you want to spend? That's the main question is, and that's what dictates you in the Porsche experience.
In the pre-2018 Cayenne part, you need a warranty. I don't care how reliable Porsches are, which they are very reliable, but they are also very expensive to fix.
That's the thing. Yeah, they're pretty reliable, but when things go wrong, you're paying a lot of money. They're in the shop for like 3 days.
Yeah, we're Goldcrest, and one day our Cup Car video will come out. I'm sure they're going to murder us for how late it is, but our Cup Car video will come out, and their mechanics work on old Porsches. And there's a guy, one of them texted saying the old Panameras are really reliable, except you have to repair stuff, like just service items, and they're like a gajillion dollars to do anything.
And you remember what I asked them?
Oh, what did you ask?
I said, "What's the highest mileage?"
Like 180,000 miles or something, right?
No, he said like 80,000.
Oh, never mind. They may not be. My mind is just Porsche good.
Yeah, that's always the question when you go to these big dealerships with like supercars. Like, man, our cars are really reliable. I'm like, "What's the highest mileage supercar you ever had come in there?" And they're like, "Oh, like 27,000 miles."
Oh, to be fair, the GT3 is a lot. Anyway.
No, I know. I'm messing around, but yeah, typically you're not going to see some dude rolling in with a 300,000 mile like Porsche Macan. You know what I mean? Like it's a different ballgame.
I would love to meet someone with like. Actually, you know who's going to say that you're wrong?
Who?
Todd from Everyday Driver. His wife has like a 2000 and whatever early Cayenne, and apparently it's pretty bomb-proof. They've put like 100,000 miles on it.
Oh, there you go, 100,000.
No,
which every car can do. I'm talking like real miles. Like big boy miles,
You mean
where you don't have to do a 3
See,
trans
all
rebuilds. and
Porsche's
engine.
thinking is their clients can fork over more bullion.
Yeah, how many gold bars did you lose?
Landlubber, which is an amazing name, for $10. GT3 versus Cayman GT4 RS. Which did you enjoy more?
Say that one more time. GT3 versus
GT4 RS.
so the short of it is the GT4 RS is far more entertaining from like the sound perspective, but when you're driving it hard,
The
like
GT3 is a better car.
it's not a good car to drive hard because of the front end. Like to me, there's such a huge problem with the front end of the strut cars. Like when you're going like 10 tenths, the tires stop work. Like at least on the car that we drove, the tires stopped working and it just turned into an understeer fest. That front end always has like that bobble, and it always feels like it needs more grip in the front.
And to be fair, you were comparing it to other cars at its price point.
Right.
If you're coming from like a Supra and you
Right,
drive
right.
the GT4 RS, it is on another planet.
Yeah. We're talking about
Yeah.
like, we're talking about like if you've driven a GT3 and a GT4 RS and you go on the track, the GT3 is like, yes, it's right. The GT4 RS, I would rather drive that car on the street, and I would have way more fun because you're never reaching that like 2% or that last 10% that I'm complaining about at the limit. You never reach that on the street, and you're like, yeah. I'd always want to hear it. So
I'm going to say this, and I say this all the time, and people are going to hate me for saying this. The best car I've ever driven, objectively, as a track vehicle that is a car you can buy with a warranty, is the new GT3. You go out and buy a car, it is one of the most capable vehicles I've ever driven. So anyway, hopefully that answers your question, landlubber. Germeyer Bajwa, thank you for the $10. Hello guys, just want to say a huge thank you for what you're doing. There's no one else that I really trust with this stuff. Just got a Veloster NDCT, and parts of you guys. Take care. I hope you like your car, man.
yeah, I'm glad you got one. I feel like that car is going to become more rare now that they killed off the regular Veloster. I don't know how long the N's going to stick around, honestly. Their sales have to be like tiny. The DCT on that car it's amazing what they did compared to like, you got to put this in, you got to put it in relation to the other Hyundai transmissions before that, because that's been their low point. And you get in there, you're like, wow, this is legit.
Next question, and I'm trying to get through all these markets. Chris is no longer taking questions for us, thankfully. Naval Puppets, thank you for your $1. Dear Scotty, for $10, looking to get out of my 18 Q5 for something more fuel efficient. I'm afraid to lose a luxury. Would a Venza keep me happy?
From a Q5?
From 18 Q5, so an older one.
Maybe. Yeah, all I say is you drive that thing for 5 minutes and you'll know. That's how quick, because what you see is what you get with that car. There's nothing. Yeah, I think it's pretty quiet. It's not going to be as quiet as the Q5. The ride is really soft.
My parents loved that Venza so much that we had as a long-termer that they thought about buying it. Till they found out that I got sideswiped by an Equinox. Then they're like, I don't want that thing anymore.
Yeah,
but
of course.
They it's just kind of like the I hate to call it the beater because it's still a new car, but the beater that they were just going to leave at the grocery store when they went, so it didn't get hit by golf.
Well, that's the thing with the Venza. Like, you're not into it for a lot. It's still super comfortable. It has utility and it gets good fuel efficiency.
Great fuel economy.
Yeah, and that's important.
And it's not disposable.
And it's a good appliance. Like, it does what it's set out to do, as being like more of an upscale. Like,
and next year they fix the infotainment, so wait for the next year model.
Yeah.
All right, keep going. Taylor for $5. Car with great steering, lightish weight, and high revving motor for less than 60,000. Like an S2000 mixed with an Elise.
Does that exist?
Oh no. What? Okay, what has great steering for under $60,000?
Not much. And like a STI.
No, that doesn't have great steering. And then it's not even. I don't even know if he's asking for new or used, but say under 60 grand.
S2000 doesn't have good steering.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, it's quick, but it's not like there's not a lot of feel to it.
The Miata doesn't have any feel in the wheel. It's just very
really
direct.
There's almost no cars that have feeling in the front.
All right, what car used for under $60,000 has a good steering feel? Will last like 15 years.
The S209 was the best,
but that's way over 60 grand.
I know. I'm just saying, like, the STI is similar. It's not as good.
Avora, go find a used Avora.
Avora has a good front end, but you're talking about weird, that's
the 86 had good steering.
The old
first
one,
86, yeah,
but it had a garbage motor.
right. The first 86, like if you get sticky tires on there, the front end feels really good for what it is.
GT350 is
350 has a
it's
good
good
front
steering.
end.
Yeah, for a strut car with an EPS rack, get a good steering. The Vet doesn't have good steering. The C7 doesn't. The Camaro had good steering,
Yeah, the Camaro's good steering,
but it
but
didn't rev high.
no. I mean, this is the thing. Like all the new cars, but I'd love to talk to an engineer because we were talking about this yesterday. Like, how do you get cars with such amazing structural rigidity, like unbelievable structural rigidity, and then cars from 20 years ago have better front end feel?
RevMatch TV said 987. That's the thing. For under 60 grand, I don't know if you're talking about like a car you can buy with a warranty or it's kind of
Right,
new
yeah.
or something older. The older Porsches have great steering, but I will say the 991.2 versus the 997. Remember we drove them
Yeah.
around this, or the 992 and the 99. The EPS to the hydraulic rack, at least on the street, you don't notice a big difference. I'm sorry.
You don't. You don't really notice a huge difference. But that's to my thing is like I'd really like to talk to somebody to figure out why the cars that were like rubber bands from 20 years ago with hydraulic racks or manual racks, why do they feel so much more connected than the new cars? Have they just gotten so crazy with isolation and bushings and shit that they didn't have back then, or hydraulic bushings and mounts?
For $5 from Michael, thank you for the $5. GR86 premium manual for MSRP or GR Corolla for $5,000 over sticker. This will be my first fun car, but I'm not sure if the GR Corolla is worth the premium. Well, I can tell you after riding in the GR Corolla, it's much faster than the GR86. Is any car worth paying over sticker for? I'll leave that up to you. I don't think I have a moral problem with paying over sticker for a car.
Especially the affordable sports cars that are supposed to be accessible to the normal person to have fun. That's why they existed in the first place. Otherwise, they just build them up to be like $100,000. It's for the normal person that wants that buy-in, and then you can't get them, or the dealers kill you. That's where I would say no. If I would say no, just
Out
on
of
principle. Yeah.
Need Metal for $5. How's your experience been with the 86 so far? Well, you're in luck. There's a video coming out. But in short, it's a great car. The fuel economy is bad. It's a lot like the old 86. Is that a fair statement?
I think it's way faster than the old 86.
It's way faster.
It's way faster. It's just, that it lacks any. It's much like the last engine in terms of like it has zero character. It's like not inspiring at all, but at least it makes consistent power and it feels like it's actually doing something versus just making noise and feeling like, ugh.
BMW i4 M50 or rear-wheel drive Taycan. This is from Richard for $2. We haven't driven the rear-wheel drive Taycan yet. We're going to borrow.
What was the other car?
The i4, the identical i4 that we drove.
Taycan.
Yeah, probably.
Even not knowing, I mean, the Taycan's not going to be like that much difference rear-wheel drive, but the Taycan is.
And the range is the same, basically.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably the BMW will outrange it, I would think.
By 20 miles.
In real world usage?
Probably, I don't know. Close.
Anyway, yeah, I think the Taycan is a much, much better feeling car, like body-wise. I mean, I had no problem with the BMW, though. I thought it was really good. So if you need like the BMW proportions and all that.
And the better interior.
Yeah, better interior.
Chris Miller for $20. My dad is considering buying a Miata, willing to spend $25,000. What should we be looking for?
25 grand?
ND2. That's what he needs to be looking for. Ideally, a club.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to find it for that cheap.
I don't know anymore.
I feel like that would be impossible. You could probably find an ND1 club.
But would you get an ND2 base over an ND1 club? I get an ND2.
I'd still get the ND2 because of the engine. 100%.
Get an ND2. Hopefully the gearbox is fine.
And then all you have to do is dampers, honestly, and some pads, and you'll be fine.
And maybe a diff if you really need one.
I don't even think it's necessary. You're only talking about like fucking 200 horsepower. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's not going to be as good, but not earth-shatteringly bad either.
Mighty Twig for $20. I'm on the hunt for an enthusiast car, but I love watching all your videos about regular cars. It's amazing to be able to know about tech and development of what you actually see on the roads. Thank you, Mighty, for the $20.
Yeah, thank you. It's greatly appreciated.
Cat in the Hat for $20. What are your thoughts about Mazda's future?
Well, one thing is you'll know pretty quick after this next couple cars that they launch, because the CX-5 is coming out. You're gonna have the, what is it, the CX60 and the
Mhm.
70 or whatever our American equivalents are with the rear wheel drive platform. The new CX5 does not sell well, and they can't do volume on it, and they don't do volume on the rear wheel drive architecture. I think they're in really serious trouble. Like they need to move a lot of those cars. So ask me again then.
What do you think the future is going to be? Oh, after that, okay.
Well,
sorry.
they're gonna have the hybrid inline six, and it's like great idea.
Too little, too late.
I don't know if it's too little, too late, but it depends on how good those cars are. Again,
And if they can actually move volume.
that's the more important question for them, honestly, because they don't have a problem. Their cars are good. There's nothing wrong with that, but they don't sell enough.
El Canal de Medine for $5. I bought a 2020 Big Ben Bronco soft top. The dealer wanted $58,000. I got it for $48,000, but I still feel like I got robbed. You paid over sticker.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I mean, I don't know if you got a good deal or not, but paying over sticker is rough.
It is. It's. I mean, it's a reality right now, though.
Dave,
I mean, to be fair, right? If you want to buy something,
and
it's
you
not
have,
like you can get out of it.
no,
You know what I mean? It's not like there's
You're pretty
some
much
magic
fucked,
formula to like get out of paying over sticker. The dealerships are going to cash in now while they can. You know, I mean, let's be real about it. They're going to take the money while they can because they know once the gravy train stops,
they're fucked.
they're done. Yeah, so it's just,
if the economy gets really, really bad, some dealers are going to go out of business. I don't see what the alternative is with how much cars cost.
right.
Dave,
Or financing. Like the clampdown on financing now, you're going to see a huge shift in
it'll
like
be
what,
closer to 6. It'll be closer to 10.
and not just the rates. I'm talking about like approvals. So they're going to, you know, like there was a huge boom of like under like 740 or under 740, a lot of loans given out. But once they start constricting how many loans they're going to give out, that's going to hurt when cars are priced at like the average transaction price is up to $47,000.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Think about the car payment on that for people. There's no way normal people can afford that.
Should I trade my, this is from Dave for $10. Should I trade my 2008 E92 M3 for a C6 Z06? I'll let you know after we do our C6 video.
Okay.
I got like 10 more questions.
Okay. I have to.
Yeah, all right, go ahead.
I-
Well,
the
mute your mic, Mark.
I will. The urination station, dude, is
Jay Peterson's Garage for $10. Love your channel. Just join the Patreon and hope you two can continue making quality productions. And here's hoping car makers start producing better audio systems for Mark's sake. I hope so too, Jay. And thank you for joining the Patreon. It really, really helps us. And thank you for your $10 super chat. Carlos for $20. Good time to buy a Mercedes C63 AMG 6.2 liter. So the gentleman who lent us the orange 991.2 GT3 for the track portion actually owns one of those cars, and he seems to love it. I know there was like a head bolt issue with them, but how am I going to say this? My only problem with that car is I've driven a couple, and I've driven a couple with open diffs. The open diff makes that car rough, to be honest. But if you get one with an LSD, it's a lot of fun. The gearbox hasn't aged that well either. Hazel Green, thank you for the $10. Spice Lord for $5. Love the channel. I watch it all day while working from home. Thoughts on buying a new 2021 versus 2022 4Runner versus waiting for the redesign? Don't drive much / commute. Mark and I actually talked about this off camera, so I feel comfortable bringing this up without him here. Well, I'm glad Mark is increasing his flow rate for you guys. But one of the reasons why I think the current 4Runners and the Tacomas have such good both reliability and they hold their value is it's a known quantity. The new 4Runner is going to be a 4-popper, just like the new Tacoma is going to be a 4-popper turbo. Is that losing some of the assured reliability going to be a big deal for you versus getting better fuel economy and having more performance with the 4-popper? I'll leave that up to you. I don't know what's going to be better. The 4Runner really does feel like a dinosaur, and there's a lot of charm behind that, but the interior is old. It doesn't get good fuel economy. The gearbox is slow, and the motor isn't that great. So I'll leave that up to you. Hopefully that helps. Next question. Sivo Doc for $20. keep my 2019 Civic Type R or get a new Nissan Z. This gentleman, did you mute your mic?
I did. I had it muted.
Oh,
I didn't want to have an unmutable event in the bathroom.
no, weak. And I also appreciate that. Sibo Doc for $20. Thank you for the $20. Keep my Civic Type R or get a new Nissan Z.
Ooh, I don't know. Drive the Z first before you do anything stupid.
Yeah, the Z is going to be a lot softer, but it's rear-wheel drive. And it's got a diff if you get one with the diff.
And you can do more stuff to it.
Probably.
And it'll be way faster. I don't know what's going to be more enjoyable, though. The Civic Type R is pretty unmatched. But it's front-wheel drive, too.
Damani Rose for $5. Looking to get an electric SUV, and the Tesla Model Y is up on my list. Opinion on the Model Y?
I think it's if you like the Model 3, you're going to like the Model Y, right? I mean, it's the same shit. The thing that I don't like about the Model Y is I can't stand the way that it looks. Like I just wish and I know it's Tesla we're talking about, I would prefer a much more traditional shape to it that was more functional. I don't know. I think the Tesla problem for me is like they're so like cookie cutter now, and there's so many of them, and they're always white. Like it seems like it's like the total NPC car. Yeah, it's like a Prius. I think it lacks a cool factor. But I was talking to the individual that left Mazda, and she was asking the very same question, like, what's the option for an EV that I could do long commutes in that's more of like an SUV? And it doesn't exist. So the Model Y really is kind of like the de facto. You know it works. You know you're getting long range. So in that regard, I completely get it. I just wish there were more options. I think that's the main thing that bothers me. Not that it's the best one. It's just there's not a lot of options out there for it. But I don't think you're going to go wrong with it. You'll definitely be able to flip it when something else comes out because those things are like iPhones. You know, people love them to a fault, and I don't think you'll ever have an issue as long as you didn't get one that was a total shit, like shit build quality.
I dock Joe for $5. I put a deposit down on a Kona N, and the dealer keeps saying they have to drill the front plate. What should I do? I'm in Minnesota. I went to high school in Minnesota. None of my cars had front plates.
We require front plates here.
Yeah, but the dealers don't have to drill them.
No, you tell them not to drill them.
Yeah.
I didn't have any of my cars drilled, and they were a requirement, but Illinois is passing a law, supposedly going to pass a law to get rid of front plates. Personally, I would rather roll the dice unless you live in an area where the cops are have nothing better to do but to ticket you for that.
But the dealer's saying they have to drill the front plate.
Then tell them no, it's their property. Or unless is there a law in this?
I have no idea.
There might be a regulation that says they're required by law to do it before it leaves the lot.
Then buy it out of state.
If you're that anal about it, buy it out of state, because most dealerships, unless they're regulated to do it, will not do it if you ask them, because you're spending a lot of money and you're technically doing damage to the bumper unless there's holes already in the bumper for it.
Klosky Bobs for $20. Thank you for the $20. Does the GR86 provide a satisfying driving experience? A classic lightweight sports car like the 240Z, Porsche 964, or Alfa 105?
Kind of.
You don't have any of the feel of those cars, but it is a lightweight sports car.
It's the closest thing you can get to those cars that's affordable. Let's put it that way. Other than a Miata, which is, obviously you're asking about an 86, you don't care about a Miata, but it's the closest thing you can get, honestly.
Mike for $10. Have you seen the patent from Toyota for a fake manual to use with electric?
No, I hadn't seen that, but I saw the Hyundai Kia patent for their digital manual transmission, where it's just a link. It's just a gearbox that's all. It's an automatic with a 6-speed and no clutch. So I'm assuming it's the same shit.
MK for $10. Moving from an 07 350Z to an EP3 SI for more space and miles per gallon. Thoughts? I live in San Francisco. What's the EP3? Which one was that? Is that the 97?
What are you talking about? The Civic?
Yeah, he's
that's the Euro trash one, isn't it?
Oh, the hatch.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Well, there's your answer. He hates that thing. I haven't really spent any time with it.
Let me double check, because I can't remember all the alphanumerics anymore. It's not just Honda. It's all these companies now. It's hard to keep up. Yeah, that was the Euro trash one. I hated that car. The one that we got here because
it's nerfed.
It's nerfed, and the front end is horrible on it. It was the way we were talking about the Mazda Speed 3.
Yeah.
It was like that with 160 horsepower. It
Oh.
had horrible understeer. So essentially you had to make serious suspension changes to the front to get rid of it. But the styling, it's the most European Honda like looking thing. I buy obviously why.
Mhm.
So like one of the few or only one we
And
got.
they claimed the Euro ones with the Type R were fun.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they were. So maybe I guess it's unfair. As a stock car, I never liked it, but I've never driven one that was like totally modified out, like with the right parts. So it could be way better.
$5 Canadian. Have you seen videos comparing the 2021 and 2022 vehicles? The F-150 Lariat was eye-opening. Tons of features removed from microchips.
Yeah, so I went through that stuff with the BMW stuff, and you're seeing more manufacturers do this so they can get production up. Because there's no point in holding a car back because you can't get like a heated seat or like an infotainment screen. So like in the case of BMW, they removed touchscreen from iDrive. They removed the entertainment package. They removed wireless charging. The hell else did they do? They did something else. It was something really big. But anyway, and they removed premium audio like Bowers and Wilkins so they could get the cars out the door. But the thing is, they were still charging the same amount for that product, but cutting out the features. That's where I think it's wrong. But I think Ford was actually giving money back, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember.
I think they were cutting features and then offering money back for it, which is more ethical to do. But I mean, I don't know what you do. Like people want the tech shit, but you also need a car. Can you sacrifice some of the bullshit, the modern amenities, just to get a car? I would say yes.
I'm gonna answer Adrian Q's question. He just paid $10. We're doing a Rivian video. I'm scheduling it now, so you'll see it soon.
Yeah, the Rivian video will be, as you would expect, very comprehensive.
Cap and Goof, hypothetical question. You can do any video you want and be paid $100,000 to do it. What would you do? I would do a documentary in a car, be on the ground floor when it's being developed.
And I told you this, the same thing. The ideal situation would be like get us in when it's being penned. Like this would never happen because that's not the way this works. But they said, okay, we want to do, let's say, what would be a new car?
Let's say someone was doing the new Mustang. I'd want to be for $100,000. If they paid me, and honestly, it's probably not that much money for how long it would take. It'd be like a 5-year project.
Right.
But over 5 years, if I got paid $100,000 and I could still do my other jobs,
right,
just to be a part of every step of the way and do a video
and tell the story. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that $100,000 would be worth it. I'll be honest.
No, probably not,
because most corporate payouts are anywhere between 30 and 60 grand to do like a corporate project, right? I mean, on average.
Yeah, it depends.
But I mean, 100 for a 5-year project. Okay, we're getting into the math of it. What was the question? What car would you do?
No, what project would you do for $100,000?
It would be something that I would still have to be passionate about. Like I'm trying to think of a car that I would want to do.
The new Prius. We can't say anything about the way it looks either.
I won't.
No.
Is there a car that you think that you would do 100,000?
I would love. I mean, not even just being paid for it, just to have the project covered. Like we're putting together a proposal to do something on a very high end Aston Martin, and you need to send that over to me. But I had something like that where we flew across the world, we interviewed everybody, we got to tell a real story that we had unfiltered access for, but it would be a fuckload of work. I would do that for $100,000.
Again, like this concept of money versus like passion are two different things. If you're looking for a payday, you could make the argument, oh, you can do anything. And if it was $100,000, I'd take the easiest project possible if I didn't like it. But for a passion project, I wouldn't need $100,000. I would do it for essentially nothing. I'm struggling to think of a car that would be interesting enough to tell a development story about. Like, you certainly wouldn't talk about like a friggin', like Jack said, a Prius. Like, I don't care about that. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I think some of this is fatigue.
Hopefully we answered the question.
Yeah, I know this is just fatigue setting in because my brain's not working. I'm sorry.
I'm going to speed through these. Verdon, thank you very much for the $10. CX-5 non-turbo versus Crosstrek.
CX-5 non-turbo versus Crosstrek. CX-5.
I agree. Even though the non-turbo wasn't fast, it's still physical.
Even though
gears.
the CX-5 is old now, like it's still a good product over on the Crosstrek. The all-wheel drive system's great, but the interior of the CX-5 is just much more nicer.
Michael Schneider for $20. This is the last one that we have two more that we're technically supposed to answer, and then I'll speed through the other ones that we said we wouldn't, but I will try to answer them. Michael Schneider says, new business owner is asked, how are things going? He responds, paper clips cost money. Cheers. Michael Schneider, hopefully that's in response to our favorite kids in the halls girl drunk. Next time you're drinking at work and you're in the supply closet, you just yell that you're looking for paper clips.
Yep.
John Z, thank you, John. John was the gentleman who gave us his 458 to do a video on. John's also a really, really nice guy. Thank you for the $20. Y'all need to relax and enjoy summer. Well, John, I'll relax when I see you next. You can cradle me in your arms.
Yeah, John. Thanks, man. Like you're one of the cooler people we've met doing this stuff. Yeah, for sure. Like not even just saying that. I mean, I like how you're wired. Let's just put it that way.
John is the ultimate doesn't give a fuck person, which is amazing.
I mean, he gives a fuck.
No, he does.
But like relatable.
Yeah.
Like doesn't take shit too seriously.
John made me evacuate my bowels on the racetrack too, so that was exciting.
What, in the Radical?
In the 911.
Oh,
when it went sideways.
Yeah. Yeah, Jack's like, I've never seen somebody overdrive a car so hard than that. But it was his own car. To his credit,
it was very entertaining.
Like
he has like 911 cab. He's like, oh, Jack, let me show you what this thing can do. And I'm actually, you'll admit, I'm a pretty good passenger.
Yeah.
I was just pure fear. He's a really good driver too. He's a better driver than I am. And it was just like the car it was on cold tires, and the car went all the way sideways in a 992 Carrera S cab with the roof down. And it was all the way sideways in a corner. I've never gone sideways before. It was turn one. It's like past the metal barriers, and you take that left, you tap the brakes and turn left. It was all the way sideways through there.
Oh, because he probably didn't get on the brakes?
I don't know.
He probably just went in flat.
Yeah, and I was just like,
oh, we're just walked out.
I've never had the thought in my head on track where I'm like, I wonder what this is going to feel like.
Well, that's, what, honestly, like, I think other than the tires digging in, if you drop a wheel going off that's
probably the worst place to be.
No, I'm just saying that's flat there. There's nothing out there.
Other than the tire barrier.
No, you're talking about that left-hander?
Yeah.
That sweeper?
Yeah, but I thought he was going to loop all the way around and go into the trees.
Oh, yeah.
But he didn't. He caught it. I would not have been able to catch that. Good for John. Anyway, John,
there's your story.
There's your story.
This is what we think about you. Now, the next story about John is he hit me and said...
Says you're weak.
Yeah, he said you don't drive enough horsepower.
Joe Nibbler for $20. OnlyFans when? Nobody wants to see that.
Oh God, that would be grotesque.
Alexander Walter, love your channel. Your ISF video was why I bought one. Alexander, thank you for your €10 donation. I'm glad that video helped. I know a lot of people were angry that I didn't love the ISF, but at the same time, hopefully that I'm glad.
It's all the Lexus cars like that have the same like polarizing. Like you either get it or you don't. That's it.
Cam Taylor for $14 Canadian. Is the M240i the best blend of all-around daily drivability, considering it for a second car?
M240i?
Yeah, the one I drove, it was all-wheel drive.
The purple one?
Yeah.
I quite don't understand why everybody is like crazy about that car. Is it because it's the magic price point for performance?
Magic price point.
Oh, okay. That I get about it. I mean, it feels like most BMWs to me. I mean, it's great.
I would just get an older M2. Yeah, I would, because it's rear-wheel drive only. The problem with the M240i, it has to be all-wheel drive, and you have to get an automatic.
What I don't even remember what I said about that car. Do you have any idea?
I don't remember either. Watch your video, then you'll find out.
Yeah, that's the sad part about doing this is some cars you just don't remember about. Like that's one of those.
But isn't that also a sad thing to say about that car? Is you don't remember it?
No, that's not fair because if we only had done 5 cars in the past like month,
yeah, then you would have.
Or not month, like 2-3 months, you'd be like, oh my God, that car was amazing.
What's a good $10,000 daily beater? Some Honda or Toyota.
Yeah, but that CRV that I talked about from 1998 with a manual transmission. There you go.
Kevin Lee for $3. Thoughts on the new RX? So I'll tell you the story about Mark and why I don't bring him to press events.
You tell the story, and I'm gonna find the video because I have it saved because I found it.
All right, so. Mark is not like me. I'm very John businessy when we go to these things. I'm always trying to manage expectations with these large corporations to get special access and try to present business value.
I'll tell you 2 stories about Mark. So we're on stage at the Toyota Connected thing, and the RZ. To be fair, there was no the CEO of Toyota wasn't over his shoulder when Mark and I made these snarky comments. But this hyper self-serious new that's the RZ. He asked about RX.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to find. I have the.
There's
video.
They pulled out the RX video, the RX on the stage, and they played this video. It's hyper self-serious. There's a moment where this guy goes, "Wow," as he's driving a 4-cylinder on a beach. And it's a paid actor, and Mark and I both burst out laughing. So that's how I feel about the new RX. We saw it, we sat in it, or I did at least. It's very nice. It looks like the new ES on the inside. They're going to sell a bajillion of these cars.
Oh yeah, they will. They're gonna sell a lot. This is the video. Yeah, here it is. I think this is it. Yep. I just gotta get the timestamp so people can watch it.
It's like the 17-ish minute mark.
I'm gonna copy and paste the link.
All right.
So yeah, this part that I'm referring to, of course, they don't show the video in the background that they're playing completely. They cut away to the car to this. Here it comes.
Where is it?
It's wow. Right after this. Sorry, hang in with us. It'll be worth it just seeing this clip.
Yeah, it's this male model driving a car saying, wow.
All right, so at 18:15, you can start it because I'm not going to waste your time.
But at that particular moment, Mark and I are to the right of the stage, like 4 rows back. And Mark and I are both cackling, laughing like a bunch of children.
Yeah, it's this part where this dude's driving the new RX, and like we're watching this presentation, and the video is just like I get what they're doing and selling a brand image, but it's just like there's nobody that buys this car or any car that is like this. You know, like these life experiences they have because of a car just doesn't exist. So it's like already comical. It's like a parody to me, first of all. I just see it as funny. And then the dude's like, wow. Like, it's just like his breath is taken away from driving like a 4-cylinder hybrid car. Like somehow it was this, oh. And I literally was laughing. And I know Micah next to me, he's like, kind of like, shut the fuck up. You know, like you shouldn't be laughing because everybody can see you. And then there was another moment I put my foot in the mouth with. I can't say what I said.
No, you can say what you said. You can't say what it's about.
Oh, yeah.
So we saw a new car be unveiled, and the whole senior leadership of Toyota is behind Mark. Literally, like, he is here, and on the other side of the room is the VP of Toyota of North America and the senior leadership team. They pull back the sheet of that's covering up the car, and they take away our phones. They
take away your phones. I didn't know they were behind us. Like, I didn't know they were right behind us.
And his first thing he says out loud is, it looks like a fucking Dodge Dart. And of course, I can't contain myself. I burst out laughing. The senior leadership's behind us. So also, maybe if I don't get a GR Corolla, that's why.
But, you know, I think this is the neutralization effect that you have to have doing this stuff, because at some point, if I'm just like won over by all the nonsense,
that's going to be my job.
Well,
like,
I mean, wow. you're fine with it because of your age. You know, I feel like I've earned the right of being where I'm at to just be a little bit more real about it. Like it's too serious for what it is, and I got to have fun with it, or I can't do this anymore. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm not saying, like, when I said it, it was like a first reaction. You know, it's like, it was almost like I was waiting to be, they built this shit up. They take your fucking phone, like, oh my God. You know, like they get you all prepped, and here we go. You got, who pulled the sheet off?
I don't remember.
Doesn't matter. They like make this big fucking ordeal, pull the sheet off, and the sheet comes off, and I'm like, what? This is a fucking Dodge Dart. You know?
I mean, the next one they pull off too was even worse looking.
Yeah. Like I was like, I was just floored. Like I don't know what I expected. Because they were talking about all their new electrified lineup that they're going to be showing, and they have special stuff. You know, people like we're going to even maybe have a follow up to the LFA that is, you know, electric, like whatever they were kind of alluding
we were
to.
hoping it would be something cool.
Yeah, and I don't know that I expected it to be cool, you know, but you looked at the silhouette of the car and I'm like, that's kind of interesting. And then it's like unwrapping a present when you're a kid. You asked for like a fire truck and you get like this, like, I don't even know what would be disappointing as a kid. I got a dump truck and I hate dump trucks. You know, it's like that expectation versus reality. And I probably should have just kept my fucking mouth shut.
Curtis Schmidt, have either of you driven a classic Mini? Neither of us have. Thank you for your $5 donation.
No, I haven't. I've always wanted to.
I think it'd be really cool. Ryan Z, do you think the what do you think the catapultation gas price? Oh, what do you think the gas price that will stop people from driving is going to be? $10, $15, $20?
I think we're already there. Honestly, I think at that $5 mark for regular is going to, once people start to really max out their credit cards with stuff, you're going to see a serious problem. But I think where people will literally stop driving is it's going to have to go up to like $10 a gallon.
Red Clock 64 for $5 is the new IS 500 or GSF IS 500.
IS 500.
When do you think they'll stop producing it? Probably in like 2 to 3 years.
No, they're going to do 5 years. They'll run it for 5 years through the life cycle of that car, maybe 4.
Dan Knowles, thank you, Dan, so much for the $50 donation.
Thanks, Dan. As always, buddy.
Our hybrids, which can also provide standby electricity, becoming more popular as they will be able to charge electric cars during blackouts.
I don't know. I mean, the capacity of those is, the hybrid battery capacity is really low, mostly. You know, what are they, like maxed out at like 20 kilowatt hours or something?
Yeah, I don't know if you could, like a random hybrid car could charge a electric car. To not answer Dan's question, but to answer it as well, I think as the environment and gas prices get worse and worse, and now that hybrids are becoming cheap, like every single Toyota that's going to be coming out soon is going to be a hybrid 4-cylinder.
Yeah.
It's to me that's a really good stopgap till we figure out.
Well, I know he's like talking about like what Nissan does, right? With reverse charging capability, you can power stuff with the car and all that crap. I mean, I don't know the practical application of it because I'm not one of those people. So I don't know. I think it's an interesting concept. It's an interesting concept, like tapping our phones together or wireless charging your phone off mine. It's a good idea, but how many people actually do it? Or plug in 2 cables to each other's phones so you can leech off my power supply. I don't know that people would do that type of stuff.
Brandon Curto, hey guys, love your stuff. Considering selling my 2020 Civic Si and getting an 06 to 07 Accord V6 manual. Concerns. Third gear.
Yeah, it said 06 to 07 Accord.
Third year. The manual with V6.
No, I think I can't remember when the TSB ended. I want to say it was 07 when they fixed it.
It wouldn't make sense because my Civic Si that I had was an 08.
So maybe I did leach out. Yeah, just so third gear, if you get it, the only concern really is that make sure that the timing belt was done.
Yeah, I already said that.
Okay, he said he did it already?
Or other than the timing belt and clutch. It's third gear. That's the only thing.
The clutch was only bad they changed the clutch out after 03 and 04. I think it was like the worst clutch on the planet, the pedal feel, and then they updated that. So that's not even an issue. Clutch isn't a big deal. But the trans is, because to rebuild a third gear set is a pain in the ass. So if you get in it right away when it's cold and you feel like third gear not wanting to go in or it starts to pop out, then you could try, like you did. I had you do a GM synchro mesh in it. It fixes it for like 8,000 miles.
Then you got to do it again.
Then you got to do it again because whatever happens in terms of the friction modifier wears out or whatever friction, that.
Fly Death 18 for $5. Basically, SEMA, this is in regards to the thing we couldn't figure out the law. Basically, SEMA managed to get a law passed so small manufacturers here in the USA can make reproduction cars with minimal regulation overhead. Well, that's going to be huge.
Like what? Rebuilding an old car?
Yeah, so like theoretically, like Caterham, because it's Caterham can sell cars now here because it's a reproduction car of an old vehicle without having to deal with the government.
So could a manufacturer spin up an old car and redo it, like a Miata, right? Like
theoretically, yeah.
Okay. And is there a market for that?
I have no idea, but that's what the law is. That might be really cool. for
I
old
always
cars?
said they should do reissues, like like reissue old cars in limited numbers, and they would sell out instantly.
The problem is the tooling costs and everything.
Well, if they already had the tooling,
Fair point.
like it depends. Like it depends how old it is. If they keep the tooling, Toyota says they keep all their tooling, or their OEM, their suppliers are required to keep tooling for an extended period of time. So it's possible, like if they wanted to spin it up an MR2.
Yeah.
Like maybe I'm misreading what this comment is about.
But that would be really cool if it was.
Then you're getting people getting fucking wiped out in accidents.
Yeah. CP for $5. Are you guys worried about that gas is being intentionally made expensive to push a green agenda, thus ruining vehicles as we know it?
I do not think that's the
No,
case
I don't
at all.
either.
I don't think our government, and it's not even political, I don't think the government is smart enough to negotiate those waters. I don't think that has anything to do with it. They're so short-sighted, even in terms of like EV infrastructure and all that, that it's going to cost so much money to do it that nobody likes to spend or raise taxes to do things.
The optimistic curmudgeon just donated $50 again, guys. Please stop donating because sooner or later we're going to cut this off.
Yeah,
we've already blown 20 minutes past our
as much as we appreciate it, guys. It's like it's not about the money. It's about the principle that I have to do dance class the night before I go to bed.
He's got to do tap.
I got
the $50 curmudgeon, the best EV you and I both driven, Taycan, driving dynamically.
Yeah, I really like the Ioniq 5. I know it's so stupid, but I really liked it as a mainstream car.
It's not entertaining. It's most
entertaining.
Okay. Taycan.
Well, I don't know. It was entertaining in it.
Yeah, fair point. JR Fish 007 for $20. What's a good car to have fun on weekends, not daily, and can take to the track maybe 10 days a year? SS1LE owners say it's a great on the. It's not as great on the street as others, but great on the track. Most cars that are great on the track aren't good on the street.
Agreed.
At least at a lower price point.
No, that's the hard part about it. Is like you get to the upper end manufacturers and they have all electromechanical with electronic control to give two personalities. But the cheaper cars, you can't do that with for that reason. So it's either like the Elantra N. When we do our comparison, it's like I would take that car 10 out of 10 times on the track. It's so much fun, and then you get on the street, and it's like it's the worst one out of all of it, and that's it. But it depends on who you are. Like if you're like when you're younger, you have a much higher tolerance for like horrible riding cars or like harder riding cars because you don't need the old man spec. So it may not even be an issue.
Ed, we answered your question about CX-70, CX-90 with these 6.
The only thing I will say about that is I think that's a great thing that they did it in inline 6 because the only other company that's really doing it is BMW, and I know that's probably why they're doing it. So it's the potential to have a really engaging, good, smooth, like high performance car. Because what do we say about all the Toyotas? Like they launched all the new Lexus products with 4-cylinder
they're all
hybrids.
rattly and shit boxes.
And so it's like, dude, you at a certain point when you have enough money,
you want a more premium.
I don't want a 4-cylinder. I'm sorry, I would rather have a pure EV. So that what they're doing with the inline 6, I'm still getting gasoline and I'm getting hopefully better fuel economy. So it might be good, assuming it's not like overcomplicated.
Answer JR Fish. The SS1LE is a good idea. ND2 Miata is a great car once you do dampers and brake pads. But those are the two that immediately come to mind. That it's fun on a weekend and it'll be a good track car for not a ton of money. Adam for $20. In a world where the Civic Type R exists, does actually do an Integra Type R Type S? If so, what does that look like? It'll look like what I said in the video. If they make it, which they might, it'll be a nerfed Type R with.
It's good. I don't think they're going to do a Type R. I think they'll do a Type S.
But that's what I mean. If they do a Type S, it'll be the Type R motor. It might make less power. It'll be softer, and it won't have all the body kit stuff on it.
All right. That's probably going to be great. I mean, if you like that type of thing.
Henry, thank you for the $15. Thank you for saying we were cool. Gabby, is your GM rep going to give you an Escalade V anytime soon? I did an Escalade V video, and they're going to give us one. If people actually watch the video, they're going to give us one to do a video on. So please watch that video. Adam, thank you for the $30. Love your work.
Yeah, thank you.
The toy infotainment video was amazing. Make way for the Lion. Thank you for the 222. It will go towards my Clone Jack 40 times fund. Kevin, I really like the Stinger. Do you think it's a good used buy with my CarMax discount? I don't know.
If the V6, do not please just buy the V6 because it the 4-popper is fine, but Rear wheel drive, if you can find it, which is so hard, and V6 is kind of like the optimal setup for that, at least in my perspective. And I'm not the biggest Kia Stinger fan, honestly.
Cons 213. What's your opinion on the regular 2-liter Alpha with LSD? We don't really like it that much.
You're talking about the Giulia?
The Giulia, the base.
I drove it and I never did a video on it, so that should tell you. It's not that there was anything wrong with it. I feel like the size of the car for like how small it is on the interior. I love the exterior. For how much it is to have the 4-cylinder version, I guess I shouldn't have driven the Quadrifoglio first. I think it's so unique and so different. But Jack's big problem was the dealership experience. Like, you're buying a premium car with, like, Dodge levels of service. So I don't know. If you have to have it, at least experience it. Let's just put it that way.
But yeah, for the rest of these questions, guys, I really appreciate all your donations. Oh, and Mariano, thank you for the $50 Canadian. I appreciate all the work you guys do with my new AI enhanced blockchain minted NFT of Mark's 6-pack flesh. I'll be tossing another bullion in the vault.
If you can get an NFT of these abs, dude, I got a whole video series on how to get the rock hard abs like me.
For the rest of these questions, guys, we're only going to leave this video up for probably a couple days before we
we'll try to get it. Try to get in there and just answer the questions on text.
But it's been almost 4 hours of this, Mark. So
yeah, it's a lot. And the last one was make way for the lion. He said, "Here's more money. Don't tell me what to do." I won't tell him what to do.
Well, guys, good night. Thank you for joining us.
No, I want to end it.
Oh, all right. You gonna end it?
I'm gonna be a spoiled only child. Like, no, I want to hit the button. No, thank you again, everybody, for hanging out and spending this
4
time.
hours.
It's a lot, and I realize it's a huge commitment of time that you could be doing something else on your
Watching
Friday.
the number disappear. They're all leaving.
Yeah,
that means we can leave. Hit the button, Mark.
just watch Jack's face get all salty about it.
This
I just
fucking
want to
guy.
end it.
This fucking guy. This fucking guy.